Inland, preparing for a hurricane like Idalia can mean laying in a supply of sandbags, water, and canned goods. In Citrus County, on the shoreline, Sheriff Mike Pendergrass says,
if the storm stays on track and it stays as intense as the forecasters are predicting, I would be probably under 2 feet of water above my head.
And so preparing for Idalia means packing up and getting out of town. Jim Ryan, ABC News, Tampa.
Members of the Utah Black Roundtable held a vigil outside the state capitol last night, commemorating the I Have a Dream speech, reacting to a racially charged shooting in Jacksonville, Florida.
We still need love in this world, and love is a lot bigger than evil. Even in pain, you can still demonstrate love and help a community heal. And I think that's what we want to continue to do.
Baseline Christian Fellowship pastor Robert Merrills was among those who attended. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average up on the day, 80 points right now. The NASDAQ seeing a stronger uptrend, 166 points up right now. And we could be looking at record heat today. The temperatures drop tomorrow. KSL weather's next. KSL News Time, 9:02.
What do you need to hear in the morning to feel ready for the day?
Important news that happened overnight, the traffic you'll hit on the roads.
You'll be ready for your day with us.
Join Utah's Morning News 5 to 9 on KSL News Radio.
And now here's Growing Your Wealth, presented by Madrona Financial Services. Here's Brian Evans.
Very often an estate planning technique or legacy planning technique is to use a trust. And it's really important to select the right trustee. Some people don't think about that, but if you've named somebody as trustee, it might be your spouse, it might be your sibling, it might be your child. Some of the things you got to consider is they're going to have a lot of responsibilities in management of that trust. They have to make sure that income and estate tax returns are filed, securing and selling real estate, maintaining properties, hosting estate sales, appraisals, notifying creditors, keeping records, communicating with beneficiaries. Maybe if it's a trust that's going to live for a while, they got to figure out the investments and so forth. And you might think about that and go, well, maybe the people in my life aren't really well suited for all of that. Because I know a lot of people that have been trustees or executors. Certainly that was maybe one of the worst experiences of their life. People get upset, they might get sued, all these different things. So it's a big obligation, and don't look at it lightly, just naming trustees to trusts in your will or living trust, because that can put a real burden on some people that maybe aren't apt to handle it well. There are corporate trustees you can hire. You can also, working with an advisor, sometimes set up a situation where you have a corporate trustee, but a family member on the advisory council along with the investment advisor, so you can have a team approach to having the right trustee for your trust.
Even the mightiest of trees can be blown over if they don't have strong enough roots. The same is true with your investment plan. Can your plan withstand a financial storm? Go to MadronaFinancial.com and click on the Get Started button to request your rooted wealth analysis. You can also click on the chat button and ask us anything. We have a searchable library with answers to your questions. Visit MadronaFinancial.com.
Utah's best entertainment for 34 years running happens next week at Thanksgiving Point. Join story lovers from across the globe at Timpanogos Storytelling Festival. Visit timpfest.org.
I'm Bruce Huff, and I'm running for Congress. I spent the last 45 years working with others, building successful businesses, and employing over 1,000 Utahns. Today, Washington, D.C. is broken. More than ever, we need an innovator who can create solutions and fight the entrenched administrative state. I'm a full-time conservative. I'm the only candidate in the race that voted for Donald Trump in 2020. I'll fight to balance the budget, secure the border, and protect parental rights. I'm pro-life and pro-Second Amendment. I'll do everything possible to move power away from D.C. back to the states. I'll fight to give states more control by pushing for unrestricted block grants that could put an additional $30,000 into every K-12 classroom in Utah. I'll protect the most vulnerable in society by creating tougher penalties for child sex traffickers. I'll take Utah's values of faith, self-reliance, and hard work to Washington. I'm Bruce Huff, and I humbly ask for your vote.
Paid for by friends of Bruce Huff.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Granite Credit Union's new Dividend Plus checking account. Here's Andy Farnsworth.
A lot of slow spots to deal with right now. A crash in Provo, North 15 and near Center Street. It's actually just before Center Street, blocking the HOV and left lane. Traffic is backed up into Springville. You've got slowdown still Midvale to Murray on I-15. Construction-related or roadwork-related delays on 215 adding a lot of extra time to go up the East Belt from 6200 south to 4500 south. Foothills still slow a good chunk of the way from 215 up to Sunnyside. SR 201 backups continue to be an issue between 56th West and I-215's West Belt. Use Superior Water and Air for all your HVAC and plumbing needs. Call 974-9090 or visit superiorwaterandair.com. Superior Water and Air, we got this. I'm Andy Farnsworth in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, we could see a record-setting temperature of 100 degrees today, but the heat won't last. By tomorrow, the high drops to 88. Looking ahead to the Labor Day weekend, a decent chance of thunderstorms starting on Friday. 75 degrees right now, sunny skies at KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM, 1160 AM at KSLNewsRadio.com. Your all-day companion for news.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories on KSL News Radio.
We're trying to get like a live feed out of Florida to listen in on the news coverage there. But while we do, look for that feed, Dave. We've gotten a lot of information about Hurricane Idalia. It could hit landfall in Florida by tomorrow. There are mandatory evacuations in place. And the wildest part about this, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of wild things about it if you're living in the strike zone, but is that the governor's and experts are predicting that the storm surge could be as high as like 12 feet. And some people are saying their homes would be like 2 feet underwater if that were the case. It's crazy.
Right now, it's a Category 1, but they think by the time it actually hits Florida, it could be a Category 3. It's 9:07. It's time for the launch.
Sequence engaged.
And here are 3 things Debbie wants you to know.
Countdown. 3.
Yeah, Hurricane Idalia shaping up to be a real doozy. We're going to get the latest on the storm. And also we're going to talk about the looming fallout from the major homeowner insurance companies. There's been 12 in the last year and a half that have pulled out of the Florida market.
The National Hurricane Center advisory includes that if this storm hits at high tide, storm surge could reach 8 to 12 feet in some areas. And so that would be a life-threatening storm surge.
That was Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. And Debbie, as you talk about homeowner insurance companies pulling out of Florida, I think how hopeless and helpless the residents must feel knowing that they are so vulnerable to these big storms.
Countdown. 2.
Dave, as you know, our partners at the Deseret News have been looking into and now reporting on very serious allegations about the University of Utah's gymnastics head coach. Gymnasts reporting, the Deseret News reporting that there's been a history of physical intimidation, verbal abuse by their coach, that he demoralizes athletes, isolates them from family members. 2 gymnasts hospitalized at a mental health institute, according to the story in the Deseret News. One writing that during my time on the team, I was cussed at and had things thrown at me and was emotionally abused by Tom Farden to the point of being so broken down, I wanted to take my own life. But there are you gymnasts who have another point of view about their coach.
I look back gratefully, even when he was tough. There were a lot of moments where I am not a very intrinsically motivated person, and I think I needed that push even if I didn't love it in the moment.
This is a dirty little secret in sports, and it's one of the few areas left, Debbie, where a person in power, a coach, can verbally abuse, and that, quite honestly, that is what it is. To be cussed at, yelled at, screamed at, belittled, where this is still acceptable. If coaches acted like this in any other business, they would be fired tomorrow. We just accept it because it's what coach does. And I agree with this gymnast. I've had very tough coaches over my years of playing sports. I have been cussed at. I've been belittled. And I took it as, I'm just going to be tough. But there's no getting around it. It's abusive.
Launch countdown. 1.
We now know that the half dozen people have been hospitalized after an outbreak of E. coli hit the secondary water system in the city of Lehigh in Utah County. That's the irrigation system we've been talking about. Homeowners use it to water their lawns and their gardens. Now the State Department of Health, they'll join the show in just a few minutes as well. They're asking residents to take this E. coli outbreak seriously.
While it might be tempting to say this isn't a concern for me, or it's not going to happen to me, or it's never happened in the past, it's really something to take seriously.
Again, secondary water is being used all over the state. It waters our lawns, our crops. That is not going to change. But what can be done? We'll talk to an epidemiologist from the State Department of Health.
Dave and Dujanovic.
The Launch.
Commence.
Dave and Dujanovic. Special coverage of the top local story.
Our colleague at KSL5 Television, Lad Egan, has been following this story ever so closely. And because of his reporting, we have here been able to pass along to our listeners that there have been 12 confirmed cases of E. coli that have been known about, that have been reported out of the city of Lehigh. But enter the State Department of Health. They view this as the tip of the iceberg. And here's the whopper of the number. There could be an additional 300 cases, Dave.
And just to be very clear, folks, if you live in Lehigh, this is coming from secondary water. This is not. I repeat, this is not your drinking water. This isn't the water running through your home. This is the water that is typically used, again, to water your lawns.
You know, if you're new to the area, you may be asking yourself, what is this secondary water they speak of? You know, you come from a part of the country that uses culinary water inside the home and outside the home, so it is treated. Culinary water is treated. Secondary water is unfiltered and untreated. In fact, we asked Scott Paxman. He's with a different water conservancy. He doesn't work in Lehigh, but up in Weber in Davis County, they also, Dave lives there, secondary water. Scott Paxman called the show last week to talk about secondary water and its use in Utah.
Secondary water is untreated, unfiltered, that is used for irrigation of outdoor residential landscaping and garden. This water is non-potable, not suitable for human consumption, should not be used for outdoor recreation. It's no different than going boating or swimming in the river or swimming in a canal or any place that has untreated water. There's a good chance, of high probability, that it's got fecal matter, either from wildlife or from human waste or whatever. You're going to have that contact no matter where you recreate outside of your drinking water supply. So yes, you've got to just be cautious on wherever you go.
One of the biggest aha moments I had, Debbie, is when I asked him, okay, well, in this secondary water, where is E. coli found?
Well, there is E. coli in every non-potable source. I can guarantee it. It's just that we don't talk about it. We don't go and measure the E. coli in a river or a reservoir. It's everywhere that you're recreating.
So I
guaranteed.
I think we do need to be a little bit careful about how we use the word outbreak. E. coli, there are definitely people getting sick. We probably need to figure out what they're doing to get in E. coli, how they're getting sick. But if you have secondary water, if you play in a lake or river or a reservoir, there is E. coli in that water. So it's not like it's just this small little pocket in Lehigh where there's E. coli. There's E. coli everywhere.
What I don't know, though, and I want to learn when we talk to the health department in just a moment, is this E. coli like badder than the other types of E. coli? Like, are there different strains of E. coli? And is this one potentially worse for kids? Because we know of that little 3-year-old girl that Lad Egan at our KSL TV reported about, who ended up in the hospital for almost 2 weeks. And doctors don't know if she'll ever get her kidneys fully functioning again. So there's a list of recommendations. We're going to go through those. And we're also going to speak to the state health department about this particular type of E. coli. Is it more dangerous than others? I also want to know, like, once it passes through you, are you done with it? Are you done with it, or does it rear back up again?
Dave and Dujanovic.
Did you know Utah has just one all-news station in the morning?
It's this one. Weekday mornings between 5 and 9.
Start your days with us. We're Tim Hughes and Amanda Dixon.
Your morning companions for news.
4 more days until BYU's season opener.
Touchdown!
Join us Monday night for Cougar Nation. BYU insider Mitch Harper and Matt Baiamonte look ahead to the big game.
This is going to be a lot of fun.
And they take your phone calls. All new Cougar Nation. Monday night at 6 on KSL News Radio.
Do you know why more homeowners choose Any Hour Services for help when it's time to replace their air conditioners? What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and the main reasons people choose Any Hour Services is because of our people, processes, and convenience. People tell us all the time that there's just something different about having an Any Hour Services technician in their home. That's why most of our over 18,000 Google reviews mention our technicians by name. Another reason is our 7-step install process that we call the Any Hour Difference. It all starts with a needs analysis where you explain what you like and dislike about your current system. This helps us design and size a system that fits your comfort and efficiency preferences as well as your home's airflow requirements. As for convenience, most of our installs are completed in one day. We also have flexible, no money down financing options available, even if you've been told no in the past. So if you've been thinking about getting a new air conditioner, call Any Hour Services and schedule a free estimate today. Google Any Hour Services or schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Hey, Derek Overstreet here from the New Millennium Group, financial advisors in Utah. You know, I've been helping people retire in the state of Utah for the last 20 years. The way we do that is we actually find out what is important to you. We create a step-by-step plan that takes into consideration your income, your debt, whether you want money from real estate, stock market, annuities, life insurance, whatever. If you want to deal with professionals, people that are fiduciaries and have a legal responsibility and obligation to do what's in your best interest, give my team a call at 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370. Or go to my website, utahsfinancialplanner.com. If you'd like to retire 3 to 5 years before you thought it was possible, give my team a call right now. 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370.
I'm Congressman Chris Stewart, and I'm endorsing Celeste Malloy for Congress. It's been my great privilege to represent you, and I've tried to do so with honor. But I made the decision to step down in the best interest of my family. Now, in the best interest of Utah, I'm asking you to join me in supporting Celeste Malloy for Congress. She's the only conservative in the race that I trust. She's proven, she's tough, and she will fight for you. I couldn't be more proud to stand by her side.
Paid for by Celeste for Congress.
Enjoy low-maintenance, single-level townhome living ready today. Low rates, golf, pickleball, and more at Nilson Homes in Davis-Weber County. NILSON Homes. NilsonHomes.com.
In this market, you'll find Fisher Investments is different than other money managers.
Different how? Aren't we all just looking for the hottest stocks?
Nope. We use diversified strategies to position our clients' portfolios for their long-term goals.
You don't just provide cookie-cutter portfolios?
No, we tailor our clients' portfolios to their goals and needs.
But you still sell investments that generate high commissions for you, right?
No, we don't sell commission-based products. We're a fiduciary, the highest standard of care for a financial advisor. It means we're obligated to act in our clients' best interest.
So when do you make more money? Only when your clients make more money?
Yep, we have one transparent management fee structured so we do better when our clients do better.
Sounds like you really look out for your clients.
We do, because our priority is helping them achieve a comfortable retirement. That might be why most of our clients come from other money managers. Visit FisherInvestments.com to find out why investors like you switch to us. Fisher Investments. Clearly different money management.
Investments in securities involve the risk of loss.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, Hurricane Idalia moving toward the Florida coast and gaining strength. Several cities have told residents to evacuate. Second, an investigation has been launched looking at the University of Utah head gymnastics coach after some former athletes and their parents raised accusations of verbal and emotional abuse. Third, Sandy police trying to find a suspect after a person found shot yesterday in a church parking lot. Right now, 75 degrees and sunny in Salt Lake City. Back to Dave and Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
Dave and Dujanovic. Dave and Dujanovic. Special coverage of the top local story.
If you live in Lehigh and you've been sick recently, we don't know for sure, but it could be related to the E. coli outbreak. We do know of 12 reported cases, 6 people landing in the hospital. But the State Department of Health is suggesting from from their research into this matter in Lehigh that it could be much more widespread. Up to 300 cases.
Yeah, E. coli has been found in the secondary water system. Again, this is not the water that is in your home. It's not the water that you're drinking or showering in. This is the water that is used for your lawns, plants, trees, gardens.
A lot of communities use secondary water, the irrigation water, and it's unfiltered, it's untreated, so it's cheap.
Yes.
It's cheap, and that's one reason why you've loved it so much in your town of Kaysville, which is hooked to a secondary water system. And there's some communities, I did some research, that not all the homes are hooked onto secondary water systems, but some are. For example, Riverton, South Jordan. In Saratoga Springs, they use secondary water, but maybe other surrounding communities don't. And so, it pays to research and know a lot about it.
Yes, and I remember, because I grew up in the area,
right.
My mom told me, you cannot drink this. I was told this at a very, very young age. Like, we don't play in this. Occasionally you'd have people run through sprinklers. We wouldn't do that because we had secondary water.
Yeah. I think about people that are maybe dropping their children off at daycare centers or in-home daycare in another community. You are your outdoor system's on a culinary watering system, so that means it's filtered, but maybe the daycare provider isn't. So that's why I think it pays to know what is going on with these different systems and how dangerous E. coli is. For example, I don't know if this E. coli bacteria in Lehigh is a particularly dangerous strain, or if it's targeting maybe children more than adults if you come in contact with it, and what we should all be worried about, at least people who live in Lehigh and maybe even beyond, in order to make sure they don't expose their families to it.
Brianne Osborne joins us right now, an epidemiologist from the Utah Department of Health. Thank you for joining us. I want to play a little bit of a soundbite from the Weber Water Conservancy District for you, Brianne. I was surprised when he told us this.
Well, there is E. coli in every non-potable source. I can guarantee it.
Yeah, that's Scott Paxman, and he often joins the show, Brianne. But maybe you can walk us through specifically what the health department knows about what's going on in Lehigh.
Yeah, definitely. So, that idea that E. coli is in every non-potable source is probably true. And I think you need to understand that there's lots of different types of E. coli out there. There's E. coli that's naturally occurring in your gut, and some of it makes you sick and some of it doesn't. So what's so concerning about the situation in Lehigh is that we've found this one particularly pathogenic strain of E. coli. And by that I mean it's one strain of E. coli that can make you very sick, and it's called E. coli 0157. And it's particularly dangerous for young children. It can produce a toxin that actually damages the kidneys. And so that's why we're particularly concerned here, not just because it's E. coli, but because it's E. coli 0157 and something that we know can make people very sick.
Why is it affecting kids most?
Yeah, that's a good question. So there's a couple things. I think with this outbreak in particular, it's mostly the kids who are, out playing in the sprinklers or in the slip and slides, and they can get it in their mouths really easily. That may be one reason. And then another reason too is just that this particular strain is more dangerous for kids. Kids are more likely to have some of those kidney problems from it, and so we tend to hear about them more.
Brianne Osborne is an epidemiologist with the Utah Department of Health, and we've asked her to join the show because of the seriousness of the E. coli outbreak in Lehigh, and now we're just learning more information about this particular strain being more dangerous to children. I want to walk through what parents should know about this in terms of protecting their kids, but I also want to talk to this larger number that you're concerned about, that there may be as many as 300 cases. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so, at the health department, we only hear about the people who actually go to their doctor and get tested. But there's a lot of people who probably had, diarrhea for a few days, or they had some mild abdominal cramping, and it wasn't quite serious enough to go to the doctor, but they still probably felt pretty crummy for a few days.
Could people confuse that with food poisoning?
Yeah, this is a pathogen or a bacteria that we commonly see transmitted through food. In fact, it's the same bacteria, the same pathogen that we've seen with some of our lettuce outbreaks over the last few years and big lettuce recalls. So certainly, some of the very same symptoms that you might associate with food poisoning.
Brianna, once it's through you, is it done with you, or does it stay in you and rear back up, especially this particular strain?
Yeah, so for most people, they're going to get over it within a few days, and then they're going to be fine. But some people may need some extra help, especially maybe some supportive therapies or hydration therapy from a doctor to get over it.
Is there a medicine, or is it just treatment for your symptoms?
So there isn't any particular medicine, and actually antibiotics can be more harmful than hurtful. And so really it's mostly supportive therapies and hydration. But for young children especially, they may need to be monitored to make sure that their kidneys continue to function well.
Brianna Osborne is an epidemiologist with the Utah Department of Health. We're talking about the E. coli outbreak in Lehigh. This has been a couple of weeks in the works now, and residents have been warned not to let their kids run through the sprinklers, not to hook the spigot on the outside to the hose and then, run it to the slip and slide. Not to even let your kids put their hands in their mouth if they've been playing in the yard. And then I'm seeing this new piece of advice, Brianne, in KSL 5 Television's reporting that suggests even your shoes can track the E. coli, I guess, into the cars and into homes.
Yeah, that's right. So there's a lot of ways that this bacteria can make its way into your mouth. And so you really have to think about how you're interacting with your environment and with your pets and, what you're touching and what the things that you're touching have been on. There's a lot to think about there.
What do I do if I have a garden that is being watered by that secondary water?
Yeah, great question. I know it's been quite the concern for a lot of people as we're coming up on harvest season here. I think the biggest thing to realize is that when your fruits and vegetables are being grown, it's possible for the contaminated water to get inside of the fruit or vegetable. So you might, stand there and try and wash it off for hours and still not be able to wash it off because the bacteria is actually on the inside. So really the only way to safely consume those fruits and vegetables is to cook them.
To a certain temperature?
Yeah, we recommend cooking to at least 160 degrees Fahrenheit.
So if I dump them in boiling water, that's, I guess, 200 plus degrees, does that take care of it, or do I have to leave it in for a certain amount of time?
Yeah, that's certainly a good way. You just want to make sure that the heat is actually getting all the way through and not just on the outside. So maybe using a thermometer there to make sure you're heating all the way through.
All right, just like my steaks. I get it.
Brianne, I want to ask you this before we let you go. Is there any way that the city can clean this E. coli out of its system?
Yeah, that's a good question. And it's unfortunately a really tricky question to answer. Really, the only way to make sure that it's out of there is to continually treat the water. And like you were mentioning earlier, that's not cheap and it's not easy. And so it's kind of an ongoing conversation there for sure.
Brianne Osborne, thank you for joining us, an epidemiologist with the Utah Department of Health.
Wow, tons of great information. If you tuned in a little late to that conversation, it's never a problem because remember, we podcast these shows immediately after our show, and so our producers get it right up to your favorite podcast platform. Learned a lot of information. There's now recommendations, and if you live in the Lehigh area, to stop watering your lawn. Be aware that your shoes could be tracking this particularly dangerous strain of E. coli, especially dangerous for kids, into the home, and that also learning that if you're watering your gardens with this stuff, that water and that contaminated water and that E. coli could get inside the vegetables, so you have to boil them to like 160 degrees, Dave.
Debbie, when we come back, we're going to peek in on Florida and Hurricane Idalia. Right now, Governor Ron DeSantis is addressing the people of Wildwood, Florida, about Hurricane Idalia.
There's going to be a lot of debris, particularly in that Big Bend area. You're going to see a lot of power lines that are going to be down. and there's going to be a need for all hands to be on deck, so please accept that mutual aid.
25,000 electrical linemen are already in Florida. More are expected to come in preparation for Florida's hurricane.
It's 9:31 at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top local story this hour. 1 week until primary election day and the special election to replace Congressman Chris Stewart. KSL News Radio's Lindsay Ayers reports turnout for the race is sitting at around 15%.
That's according to the state elections office. Political analysts say that's on par with how ballots typically come in. Many come closer to or on election day. The district has 13 counties, and in just Davis County, turnout there about 27%, while down in Iron County, they're at less than 1%. In total, just over 31,000 registered Republicans in Congressional District 2 have cast their votes thus far.
And you can postmark your ballot on Election Day this year, which happens to be next Tuesday. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. New details this morning about a deadly shooting in Jacksonville, Florida. The FBI investigating this as a hate crime.
The Sheriff's Department says it's still investigating, but that shooter worked at a Dollar Tree from October of 2021 to July of 2022. They also say that he had no prior criminal history.
ABC's Alex Prochet reporting from Jacksonville. A rare blue supermoon lights up the sky on Wednesday night. It's a blue moon because it's the second full moon of the month, and it's a supermoon because it's closer to the Earth than normal, meaning it's going to look extra big and bright. There won't be another blue supermoon until 2037. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average up 156 points on the day. The NASDAQ up even stronger today, 206 points right now, or about 1.5%. And our KSL weather, possible 100-degree day today. That's next. KSL News Time, 9:33.
We have enough people running around Broadcast House at 4 in the morning to field a football team.
Producers, reporters, the traffic team, and us.
This is Tim and Amanda.
Join us each morning from 5 to 9 on KSL News Radio.
Close your eyes. Not if you're driving. The rest of you, close your eyes and imagine a world where you can stream all your favorite entertainment easier than ever. Now open them. You're in that world with the Xfinity 10G network made for streaming all your favorites. Forget about the hassle. With a reliable connection, you can sit back, relax, and enjoy the shows or movies or live sports. We know you're using your ears right now, but hopefully we've opened your eyes to the fact the best way to stream is on the Xfinity 10G network. Now through September 6th, new customers can get 1.2 gig internet on the network made for streaming for just $25 a month for 2 years when you add Xfinity Mobile with unlimited data. Plus, there's no annual contract and you get Wi-Fi equipment included. Get way more into what you're into when you stream on the Xfinity 10G network. Go to xfinity.com/10G, call 1-800-XFINITY or visit a store today. Requires paperless billing and auto pay with stored bank account restrictions apply. Taxes and fees extra. Xfinity Mobile requires Xfinity Internet after promo. Regular rates apply to internet service and devices. Actual speeds vary.
Needing a mortgage? Press 1 if you're purchasing a home. Press 2 if this home is a refinance. Press 3 if you need cash back. Your wait time is 20.
Need a great way to begin a home mortgage loan? Pressing buttons hoping that you'll end up with an actual experienced loan officer is not a smart way to start. Often it brings higher rates, higher costs, and long closing times. On the other hand, you can call Loans by Rick and speak directly to Rick, a mortgage lender that has closed thousands of loans since 2002. Rick will pick up your call every time. You only talk to Rick, not option 1, 2, or 3. Closing is fast in 12 to 22 days from submission to clear to close, with low rates and low closing costs. Call Loans by Rick at 801-809-SAVE. That's 801-809-SAVE. Or click loansbyrick.com. Rick Kirschenbaum, NMLS 241179, and Vintage Lending, NMLS 287106 are equal housing lenders.
Her name is Becky Edwards, and she's the common sense conservative we need in Congress. A proven fiscal conservative, Becky Edwards is unafraid to stand up to communist China or the big spenders in Washington to end the inflation that's hurting Utah families. Becky Edwards will defend our freedoms and support term limits like she did here in Utah. Becky Edwards, ready to make Washington work the Utah way.
I'm Becky Edwards, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Becky Edwards for Congress.
Do you have heart failure and often hear,
"Those stomach issues ruined your birthday"?
"You're too tired to play catch, Grandpa."
Sweetie, you haven't touched your tools since the carpal tunnel syndrome diagnosis.
If these seemingly unrelated symptoms sound familiar, talk to your cardiologist. Ask about transthyretin amyloid cardiomyopathy, or ATTR-CM, a rare and underdiagnosed disease that gets worse over time. Learn more at connecttoyourheart.com. That's connecttoyourheart.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Granite Credit Union's new Dividend Plus checking account. Here's Heather Kelly.
4 miles of stop-and-go traffic northbound I-15 from 400 South in Springville almost to Center Street in Provo. It's due to a multi-vehicle crash, still blocking the HOV lane and left shoulder. Once you get past there into Salt Lake County, you're going to have slowing from Sandy all the way into Murray. But the rest of the roads are pretty much at freeway speeds. Your one-tank trip starts at Cedar City, Parowan, and Bryan Head. Beautiful scenic byways and highways, live theater, and endless recreational activities. Check out the Adventure Pass to earn prizes and discounts at visitcedarcity.com. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, high today could reach 100 degrees with plenty of sunshine. Tonight's low 66 before an 88-degree day tomorrow. Cold front rolls in closer to the weekend when some more scattered thunder showers can come through. And right now, we're at 81 degrees with sunny skies at KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM, 1160 AM, and KSLNewsRadio.com. Your all-day companion for news.
Dave and Dujanovic, special coverage of the top national story.
In Florida, I know they've ceased at least partial operations at one of the major airports there. I actually don't know which one. We'll check into that. They've also closed schools. And the governor is predicting, I guess the governor, he's got a team of experts predicting that in some cases with Hurricane Idalia on its way to Florida, that the storm surge could reach up to 12 feet in some cases.
Yeah, storm surge, if you're not quite sure what it is when that huge storm is coming in, it's moving so quickly, it's actually like pushing the water. And it's pushing the ocean water up, as you said, Debbie, about 12 feet high. It's almost like a 12-foot wave that comes into the land.
I want to go to CNN Live right now. They're speaking to the mayor of one of the towns there. I didn't catch which community, but let's listen in.
Your direction, close to your direction, and in an area that often doesn't see storms of this size.
Well, I do remember that, and that was just about a year ago when we talked about Ian coming in. And we still, our thoughts and prayers go out to our brothers and sisters in South Florida. We visited there and talked to them about their recovery, but their example, I think, is one of the best things that we have to show people what can happen with these storms, how the storm surge can really devastate neighborhoods. And folks have seen that example on video and I think are responsive to that. So it's a great object lesson there.
Is that the primary concern right now, Mayor, the storm surge?
Yeah, our saying is run from the water, hide from the wind. And folks in our area, in Pinellas County, we're a city of about 260,000 in a county of almost 1 million. Out of that million folks, about 338,000 or so have been asked to evacuate from those areas because we are a peninsula within a peninsula. We're very susceptible to storm surge, and folks need to move now because over the next 12 hours, we're expecting to see 4 to 7 feet of storm surge.
Okay, that is the mayor of St. Petersburg in Florida, where they're prepping for what could become a Category 3 hurricane storm surge. You just heard there up to 12 feet in some areas. We got Kevin Eubank, KSL meteorologist, live on the line. Kev, can you join the conversation? I want to just flip over real quick to WFLA in Tampa Bay, Florida. I think they're kind of like wall-to-wall on-air coverage about the hurricane.
Let me please emphasize, and Eric will agree, at this stage and where we are with this storm, because it's still over the Gulf and isn't, all the way to Florida yet, individual wobbles don't mean all that much because the following wobble could wobble back. It could wobble back on track. But a series of wobbles, if we put more wobbles together and we're noticing trends. This is what we do here on Tracking the Tropics. We're paying attention to trends, not individual events.
Debbie, I'll be honest, I have no idea what they're talking about.
Individual wobbles mean
I'm willing to bet not even Kevin knows what they're talking about.
Weebles wobbles, but what is a wobble?
Easy there, Mr. You got to be careful there. Listen, a wobble is when you're tracking these hurricanes, they tend to move back and forth. They're not going in a straight line. They're dynamic. We like to draw straight lines because we can understand straight lines. But the truth is these storms are moving back and forth. So the wobbling he's talking about is one chart is going to show it going one way, another chart is showing it another way. The readings are showing that it's trending one direction. You got to realize when we're tracking hurricanes and we're watching where they go, they impact the track of that hurricane means life and death to the individuals that we're talking about. So they're watching those. What that broadcaster was saying is, hey, we don't hang on every wobble. We don't hang on every left turn, right turn. We're looking for trends. We're looking for, is it consistently turning left? Is it consistently bearing right? And so they're looking at the whole of this storm. But this storm is an impressive storm for sure. It was a tropical storm overnight. It advanced to a hurricane force strength. So now we're talking Hurricane Idalia. It's at Category 1 strength right now, 80-mile-an-hour winds, and it's moving north at about 12 miles per hour. About 14 miles per hour, is the current reading. But the projected plan is this evening, 6 o'clock, still out in the Gulf, it gets to a Category 2. And by tomorrow morning, as it makes landfall on the west coast of Florida, it's anticipated to strengthen to a Category 3, which is 111 mile an hour to about 130 mile an hour wind. But as Dave mentioned and as others mentioned, it's the storm surge and the rain that is the biggest concern. So as hurricanes draw closer to shore, they actually pull the water out of those bays. They withdraw the water. That hurricane, in essence, pulls the water out. Then it brings back in a surge, and the anticipated surge is about 10 to 12 feet where this comes on shore, which is in the Big Bend area of Florida. So it's actually north of Tampa, significantly north of Tampa, and it's off to the east of Appalachia. So this is going to come right up in that Big Bend area where the peninsula turns inland and then reconnects or continues over towards Alabama. But this is a big storm. The airport, Debbie, that you mentioned that's closed is actually the Tampa airport.
Okay, thanks,
and they've suspended 300 flights. They've, in essence, and they'll continue to evaluate that. They just don't want to bring people in to Florida. They're going to let people get out, but they're not bringing people in. They don't want to add more problems.
First of all, my apologies for doubting your wobble knowledge. I should have known.
Easy, Dave.
Complete
it's okay.
Total,
you're forgiven.
Total no wobble knowledge. On that storm surge, when the waters recede and then it comes back in, does it come in quickly? Is it like a wave or a tsunami, or is it just slowly starts raising?
No, it all depends on the storm, but it can start to rise slowly, and then as that hurricane makes landfall, it comes in like a huge wave. And so this is the problem. The truth of the matter, this storm is going to produce anywhere from 4 to 8 inches of rain. So that's a lot. Now, for Florida, it's not that much, but that's still a lot of rain. But what you're dealing with is across the entire western coast of Florida, a minimum storm surge of 2 feet and the potential for a 12-foot storm surge. So all the way south into Florida, you're still talking about a 2-foot storm surge, which they can handle. But when it gets to 4 or 5 feet, that does damage. When it gets to 8 or 10 feet, it does a lot of damage. And when it gets above 10 feet, it's going farther inland, it's impacting more people, and 50% of all the lives lost in hurricanes are exclusively from the storm surge. Not from the wind, not from the damage, not from the electricity. It's from the storm surge. So that's why you're going to hear officials and others talk about how important that storm surge is. This is a big one for this particular hurricane.
Yeah, they said hide from the wind, but run from the surge.
Yeah, you got to get away. You got to get to high ground, and you've got to get a very significant distance off from shore. So there's a lot of people that love Florida and live in Florida because it's close to the ocean, but those people have to get to higher ground and get inland because that storm surge is going to just be devastating. And if you're in homes, it's catastrophic.
Okay, so tomorrow morning when we're on the air, Kevin, what are you doing? Are you going to be available? We're going to call you. We're going to need the update because it sounds like that's when this Idalia is really going to be starting to hit that area.
Yeah, 6 to 8 a.m. Eastern time, so that's going to put it at 4 to 6 a.m. before you guys ever get on the air. But Tim and Amanda will definitely cover that coverage as it gets on shore, and then obviously the catastrophe that's going to follow. And it is going to be a catastrophe. When you're going into this kind of an area, this kind of population, it's a big deal. And so we're always here.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Hi, it's Tim Hughes and Amanda Dixon.
Why should you start your day with us?
We have decades of news experience between us.
And we take your trust seriously.
Come here for news tomorrow, 5 to 9.
On KSL.
Attention smart homeowners. You don't have to fall for flashy promises and companies that don't even prove their work. At Your Service Pros uses third-party verification software called MeasureQuick to ensure your new HVAC system is installed correctly. This ultimate game changer in the HVAC industry lets you, the homeowner, have proof of how your system was installed. At Your Service Pros utilizes our Bluetooth tools to upload all of your system's information into MeasureQuick. We rely on data-driven insights to properly commission, optimize, and fine-tune your HVAC system for peak performance, improving your family's comfort, lowering your utility bills, and extending the life of your HVAC system. With rebates and tax credits available totaling more than $7,500 on a dual fuel heating and cooling system, it is now more important than ever that your HVAC system be installed correctly. So call us today at 801-YOUR-PRO. That's 801-YOUR-PRO. Have the peace of mind of saving up to 50% on your new system and knowing it's installed correctly by calling 801-YOUR-PRO.
I guess it's human nature, Amanda, that no matter how much money we have in our savings account, it never seems like it's enough. And if you find yourself in that mode right now, let us direct you over to our friends at UCCU. They are wanting to help you supercharge your savings.
UCCU is offering high-rate savings options with yields up to 5.5%. All you do is go to UCCU.com and select a high-rate savings option to do just what you said, supercharge your savings.
You're going to get a much bigger return on your savings right now. It's a savings certificate, which means you make one deposit up front and your money grows over a fixed period of time. So you can have that grow over 5 years, but UCCU has created some very short-term savings certificates with high yields, short like 6 months, 9 months, or a year.
So you decide how long do you want to put that money. You deposit money, a one-time only deposit, and then you let it stay in. The longer it stays in there, the higher the interest rate you earn.
And if you need immediate access to your money, UCCU's Money Market will give you a high yield and anytime access.
UCCU, you're going to love where you bank.
It's me again. And of course, I'm at the annual fall extravaganza at J&J Garden Center in Layton. And what a great time to buy. Right now, all containerized trees, all shrubs, and all perennials are 20% off. You heard me right. J&J's entire inventory of containerized trees, shrubs, and perennials are 20% off their regular price. J&J Garden Center definitely has the best products at the best price and most definitely the best service too. But don't take my word for it. Come experience J&J Garden Center for yourself. Take advantage of their incredible fall tree, shrub, and perennial extravaganza. Take the Layton Parkway exit, Main Street to Gentile, then west 2 miles. You've got to see it to believe it. You really do.
Country grown to your home. J&J Garden Center.
In these critical times, we must return to our Founding Fathers' vision for our nation. Citizen legislators, not career politicians. In Congressional District 2, support conservative Republican Bruce Huff. Bruce Huff commits to just 3 terms, backing a 5-year lobbying ban for Congress members and staff post-service. He'll secure borders against cartels and traffickers, safeguarding national security. Bruce Huff seeks stricter penalties for child sex traffickers, protecting the vulnerable. A successful businessman, Huff brings expertise to trim wasteful spending, slimline government, and empower states. He'll free Utah classrooms from federal overreach, granting states funding control, potentially adding $30,000 per Utah classroom. Bruce Huff, job creator, father of 10, citizen legislator. Choose a brighter future. Vote Bruce Huff for Congress. Paid for by to form a more perfect union, not authorized by any candidate or candidate committee.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, police in Sandy's still looking for whoever shot a man in a church parking lot yesterday. Second, Idalia is now strengthened into a hurricane as it heads toward Florida. And third, 1 week until primary election day in the special election to replace Congressman Chris Stewart. Turnout for that race sitting at around 15% right now. 81 degrees in Salt Lake City right now, and back to Dave and Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
Dave and Dujanovic.
I'm actually very much looking forward to hearing my co-host Dave Noriega's take on this article that's posted on the Deseret News. You can read the entire thing, and it is in depth. DeseretNews.com, reporting that Utah Gymnastics is under an outside review after emotional abuse allegations. So these have surfaced, Dave, because according to Deseret News, again, former gymnasts and parents allege the coach, Tom Farden, verbally and emotionally abused athletes. But there are others who defend the coach. So we're going to tell both sides of this story.
There's a few things that go through my mind, Debbie. As many of you know, I worked in the sports department for 13 years. I've been a coach. I've played sports. So I have, I think, a unique insight. Maybe not all that unique. This is kind of a dirty little secret that we don't talk about, but it's an open secret as well, that coaches can be brutal to players. Male, female, it doesn't matter. Not all coaches, but in my experience, the majority or a lot, and enough that you would say, yeah, that's stereotypical. A coach yelling, cussing at a player is pretty normal and unsurprising. What is surprising to me, Debbie, is how long we've put up with it, how long we've turned the other cheek and kind of ignored this kind of behavior from adults primarily to children.
Now, if you're wondering, like, how is the University of Utah going to handle this? They have hired an outside review team. I believe it's an out-of-state company that will, organization that will look into these allegations. But I want to walk through some of the allegations that are outlined in this Deseret News article, Dave, and I want to hear like what your thoughts are, but also how you handle things as a coach, because you've coached girls softball for a lot of years. What about boys sports?
Yep.
Have you coached boys sports?
Yep.
He's done it all. He's dad extraordinaire. Volunteer positions mostly, high school, yeah, kind of
Little paid.
little paid here and there, but
Work
not
for free-ish.
Right. Okay. But so let me walk through some of these allegations that are outlined in the Deseret News. And the ones I'm going to talk about right now, I'm just going to quote right from the D News so I get it right. This is according to 5 former Red Rocks, which are the team members for U Gymnastics. They call the Red Rocks, okay? And then also mothers of 4 gymnasts and 2 former staff members who worked for Coach Farden over the course of his near, quarter century of college coaching that he's been involved in this career. So here's one right here. They say there's verbal degradation and public shaming, where he would single out and demean gymnasts, both in practices and at meets, and demoralizing athletes and causing feelings of worthlessness. Typical? Not typical? Something we need to talk about more?
Yeah, no question. It's something we need to talk about, but there is a fine line here, Debbie. There are a lot of kids that don't like to be criticized, even in the softest, kindest way. They hear any sort of criticism or what I would call coaching, and they feel terrible about themselves. I've talked to girls before and boys. I've talked to them and coached them, hey, you need to do this, because they're obviously not doing that, and they take it way harder than is intended, than I want. So sometimes, looking from an athlete's perspective, when a coach talks to you, because you're trying to please coach, you want to make coach proud of you, when there is criticism, you take it very hard.
Here's another allegation. We're talking about the story in the Deseret News. It says Utah Gymnastics is under review, outside review, after emotional abuse allegations, and that former gymnasts and parents have alleged the coach of U of U Gymnastics, the head coach, verbally and emotionally abused athletes. And that others are coming to the defense of the coach, and we're going to get to that in just a moment. They're also accusing him, Dave, of creating an environment that rewards and encourages gymnasts to report on their teammates' lives inside and outside of gymnastics. I thought that would definitely, to me,
that would cross the line.
Yeah, across the line, and also like tear the team apart. You know, if you look at having been a mom that sent her kids off to college on scholarships, albeit community colleges or junior colleges, and my son went to a college also at the university in New Mexico for pitching. So they played on scholarships. That would be a difficult position for my kids to be in if they were told to be kind of the narc of the team. Being away from home, not having the family support. I wouldn't want my kids to be put in that position.
One thing I will hear from a coach, though, and a coach will say often is, hey, this is a family. We look out for each other. If someone is doing something dumb, then we want to help them out. You know, we want to make sure they're not making bad decisions. So there's a standard of conduct that is expected, that is pretty standard. And if you're a college athlete, you have to live by some of these rules.
Reports of physical intimidation, including throwing objects in the gym.
Never okay.
Also, the Deseret News reports that it's learned that 2 gymnasts were hospitalized for more than a week at Mental Health Institute to address their mental health concerns and suicidal thoughts. One wrote that during her time with the team, she was cussed at, had things thrown at her, and was emotionally abused by the coach to the point of being so broken down she wanted to take her own life.
Sports is such a high-pressure, intense situation. And in my experience, players, they let failure eat at them in an unbalanced way. Again, they heap on a lot of stress, and some of that, no question, is because a coach maybe is too hard on them. But what's really hard, and this is what I've experienced in my years and years of coaching, Debbie, you could give me 12 girls. I could treat them all exactly the same. They would all have radically different experiences.
Which leads us to the next point in the story. And the Deseret News covered the other side of this, too. There was a different point of view. Not everybody saw things the same way. And in fact, KSL5 Television, Debbie Worthen, spoke with 2 Red Rocks gymnasts who had much differing points of view about their experience.
And since 2011, now head coach Tom Farden has been on the floor working with the award-winning team. The U put him in charge back in 2020.
I really have nothing but positives to say about Tom and his program.
That's Sydney Solosky, a Red Rock from 2018 to 2022. She's heard about the allegations and is quick to share her experience.
I had nothing but a great time. I have great memories, made great friends, learned a lot of lessons.
Same thing for Crystal Issa.
I look back gratefully, even when he was tough. There were a lot of moments where I am not a very intrinsically motivated person, and I think I needed that push even if I didn't love it in the moment.
And this is a ton of pressure to put on coaches as well. As I'm not discounting these players that are struggling, but there's really a darned if you do, darned if you don't thing to coaching. If you're too hard, then you're abusive. If you're too easy, then you're not competitive enough and you don't want to win. So again, everybody's coming through this and viewing it through a different lens. It's why we need to know specifics, what happened, what was said, to really be able to parse through and figure out, okay, was a line crossed?
KSL FM Midvale, KSL Salt Lake City. Listen on the KSL News Radio app and in your car at 102.7 FM. KSL News Radio, your all-day companion for news.
It's 10 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top story this hour, police in Sandy still looking for whoever shot a man at a church parking lot yesterday. Sandy Police Sergeant Greg Moffitt tells KSL TV they were called to check out what neighbors thought were fireworks on Monroe Street near 88th South, but they found something else.
Male laying down in the parking lot, kind of up against the curb, confirmed that he had been shot.
The man was rushed to the hospital, and today investigators trying to piece together some kind of motive in the case. Moffitt says this area has seen its share of gang activity. A Utah County realtor who rose to lead the National Association of Realtors has resigned over allegations that he sexually harassed employees and discriminated against a former girlfriend. Caney Parcell has denied all of these accusations, calling them attempts to tarnish his reputation. The National Association is facing a lawsuit over Parcell's alleged threats to fire that ex-girlfriend. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Florida bracing for Hurricane Idalia, expected to hit the western Gulf Coast on Wednesday morning. Idalia expected to make landfall somewhere in the Big Bend area north of Cedar Key. Governor Ron DeSantis says the storm track could shift before it makes landfall, so people in all the surrounding areas should be on alert.
We're looking more at a Taylor County. There's some models that say it may go even further west. So places like Tallahassee, where we are today, certainly you could end up having it hit Tallahassee directly in some of the surrounding areas. So everyone just remain vigilant.
The hurricane expected to gain strength as it passes over very warm water in the Gulf of Mexico. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average up 186 points on the day, while the NASDAQ is up 214. And our KSL weather here, we could set a temperature record today. That's next. KSL News Time, 10:02.
Start your days with knowledgeable, friendly voices telling you about the latest news and weather out there.
Hi, this is Tim Hughes and Amanda Dixon
In the business of waking you up each morning from 5 to 9.
on KSL News Radio.
Amanda, we have a lot of responsibilities as parents. You feel obligated to teach your kids many things, if not all things in life sometimes, which is a little overwhelming. But it's surprising how little we talk to our kids about money.
Financial responsibility.
Yeah.
That's why I'm so excited to tell you about what UCCU is doing, Utah Community Credit Union. As part of their mobile banking, they now have this thing called Learn and Earn.
Learn and Earn breaks down financial topics into fun, bite-sized educational games like quizzes and trivia. And every time anybody in the family completes a topic, you earn points that can accrue and you can redeem for gift cards from places like Amazon, Apple, Walmart, and others.
So literally, they are paying you to learn about financial responsibility.
It really is a great way to go, and it's fun for the whole family. Learn and Earn is part of UCCU's award-winning Be Money Smart youth banking program that helps kids, teens, and parents have fun while learning and becoming financially literate together.
UCCU Mobile Banking now presents Learn and Earn. UCCU, you're going to love where you bank.
Getting help with plumbing repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Mom and Dad used to argue about everything, especially about Dad's drinking. It drove me crazy. It got so bad, I couldn't do my homework. I couldn't concentrate. I absolutely refused to let any of my friends come to our house for any reason. I would have been humiliated if anyone found out how much my dad drank and how loud my mom screamed at him. My family went from totally crazy to quiet, calm, and even peaceful. The only thing that happened is my mom started going to Al-Anon family groups. Her relationship with my dad really changed. I asked Mom if she would take me to her Al-Anon meetings or to Alateen. I wanted to see if I could have a better relationship with my dad. I'm sure glad I did. If someone's drinking troubling you, you might be surprised at what you can learn in an Al-Anon or Alateen family group from people just like you. Call 1-888-4-ALANON or go to alanon.org.
Tim and Amanda.
We get text messages almost every day.
Yeah.
And sometimes they're letting us know about an accident they see on the freeway or the weather, and we appreciate those. But sometimes they just say, hey, TGIF, how you doing?
Well, and there are those times we get a text where we've made a mistake and they'll correct us.
And I love that too.
Well, I do too. It means a lot to us to know somebody else is out there at 5 o'clock in the morning when we open up those microphones.
Wake up with Utah's morning news with Tim and Amanda, 5 to 9 on KSL News Radio.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Granite Credit Union's new Dividend Plus checking account. Here's Heather Kelly.
We still have a crash northbound I-15 in Provo. It's just before Center Street, and it's still blocking the left shoulder, but it's in the final cleanup stages. Traffic still backed up almost to 1400 north in Springville, but delays are easing pretty quickly. Everybody else mostly at freeway speeds. Occasionally we still have some slowdowns northbound 15 in the Salt Lake Valley as you approach I-80 East and head toward Sugar House. With over 30 plus specialties in multiple locations across Utah, Revere has you covered for all your health needs. Revere Health, your partner in health, your partner for life. Online at reverehealth.com. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, south winds today, pushing temperatures up to record levels, possibly up to 100. Tomorrow, temperatures will drop into the 80s, and there's a chance of thunderstorms again on Friday and Saturday. Right now, 82 degrees. It's sunny at KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM, 1160 AM, and KSLNewsRadio.com, your all-day companion for news.
Dave and Dujanovic. Dave and Dujanovic.
So we got word yesterday that the U.S. Department of Labor swooped in and fined a Utah company saying that they violated child labor laws. I want to play more from KSL News Radio's Adam Small, Dave, who reported on what was going on with those companies. Because, of course, I was immediately curious to know, like, okay, what was going on with the kiddos at these companies?
The department says the Rush Funplex facilities in West Jordan and Syracuse hired 14 and 15-year-olds to work hours that were too late and too long during the school year. They also found that some of the kids were working with prohibited equipment like go-karts, pizza ovens, and fryers. The department also claims the owners missed payroll for 7 employees and underpaid multiple employees for overtime at the Syracuse location.
Ugh. Oh, man, if you're going to stick it to somebody, you got to stick it to the 14-year-old. I mean, that is so. They're probably making $7 an hour.
It's a 20-second rap that Adam did. I want to just play it one more time.
The department says the Rush Funplex facilities in West Jordan and Syracuse hired 14 and 15-year-olds to work hours that were too late and too long during the school year. They also found that some of the kids were working with prohibited equipment like go-karts, pizza ovens, and fryers. The department also claims the owners missed payroll for 7 employees and underpaid multiple employees for overtime at the Syracuse location.
Well, the long hours as a parent would be a bother for me. But the pizza oven?
Can't run a fryer?
I don't even trust my kids around my own fryer.
That's funny. You took it. You're like, how can they run a pizza oven? I'm like, no big deal. Come on. Kids can fry some French fries.
So the company, according to the Department of Labor, the U.S. Department of Labor, faced some fines. They got some wages back. But this raises another question. Like, do you know what the state law is in terms of allowing your kids to work, Dave? Like, how many hours, what industries they can work in? Like, can they be a certain age and run the fryer?
There are some rules, but I don't know what the under 16 rules are. But to be honest, I'm not entirely certain what the over 16 rules are, but I know that if you're under 16, you have even more restrictions.
Okay. Eric, are you there?
I'm here. Good morning.
Hi, Eric. Eric Olson with the Utah Labor Commission. We asked him on the show today to sort it all out for us, especially with the school year kicking into high gear. I don't know what the rules are for kids and their work schedules, Eric. So why don't we start with like high school aged kids, shall we? Do they have certain confines of hours that they can work in, and if they step outside those hours, it becomes a problem?
Yeah, they do. If they're under age 16, if a kid's 16 and over, then it's a little bit more wide open for them. But if you've got and we're seeing more and more of the 14 and 15-year-olds in the workforce these days. But a minor under the age of 16, they can't work during school hours. That seems like a duh type of thing, but it's one of the laws on the books. They can't work during school hours unless the school authorities authorize that. While school's in session, if you're under, you can't work before or after school for more than 4 hours a day. So I guess you could have a little bit of a job where you work before school, but can't be for more than 4 hours, and the same for after. And so when we talk about 4 hours, they can't work before 5 a.m. or they can't work after 9:30 p.m. unless the next day is not a school day. So, Sunday through Thursday, they better be getting off at 9:30 p.m. And then they're capped really during school and summertime hours. Minors under 16, they're not to work more than 8 hours in a 24-hour period or more than 40 hours a week. So they really shouldn't be getting overtime.
Is there payment requirements, like how much you can pay 14 and 15-year-olds?
That's done by the Federal Department of Labor with their wage and hour, and they've set certain, basically the same minimum wage requirements that there are for the rest of us.
So talk about like what professions and what ages, for example, kids cannot or not allowed to work in. Are there certain restrictions there, or some complaints that you guys see in terms of like kids working in industries they aren't allowed to really work in because maybe they're not licensed or they don't have the experience, Eric?
Right. Well, there are a lot of different prescriptions for kids depending on their age. We all remember, or maybe we've done it ourselves, the kid riding the bike down the street, throwing the newspapers at the porches. Well, you can do that starting at about 10 years old. So 10-year-olds can deliver newspapers. They can do lawn and garden care, but there's some rules about power-driven lawn or snow removal equipment. So they could shovel or they can rake things in yards and maybe weed somebody's garden. They could even caddy. They could be a caddy for somebody out of a golf course as young as 10. One of the fun ones on there, they can do shoe shining. Mom and dad are going to have to drive them down to the airport, or they can do that because that's the only place I see that anymore.
I mean, if I saw a 10-year-old shining shoes, I would report the parents. I mean, this law must have been written in the 1850s, Eric.
I would have a big sign that said, "This is totally legal, 10-year-old shoe shine."
Hey, that's an enterprising youngster. An enterprising youngster gets start on life.
Like for a certain age for babysitting, is that
12.
permitted? 12. Oh.
Yeah, 12 years old.
So
funny that was a
wow.
That was a rule kind of in our own house. Say you can babysit when you're 12 because we felt like that was when a kid maybe could be a little bit more responsible. But that's actually on the books in the state. If a 12-year-old wants to babysit, they can be involved in babysitting. They can do door-to-door sales, delivery of merchandise, non-hazardous agricultural work. Those are some of the things a 12-year-old can do.
Wow.
Go ahead and finish
that
thought.
Go ahead. Sorry. I was just going to jump into the 14-year-olds unless you wanted to ask me something else.
I love this. I love this conversation. Let's hear about the 14-year-olds.
All right.
Because I got a 13-year-old that I'm looking to put to work next year. So let me know what I can do with the 14-year-old.
Dave wants to know what he can legally do in terms of a job for his kid.
Dave, do you feel like the kids serving at the fast food places are getting younger, or do you just feel like you're getting older?
A little bit of both.
They are getting younger, Dave. Rest easy. There's a lot more 14 and 15-year-olds that are in that right now, and they can work in retail food services if they're over 14. They can work in an automobile service station. There are restrictions for them for operating vehicles or using the hoists. They can work in janitorial and custodial. They can do lawn care and snow removal, this time with mowers and such. And they can work in non-hazardous areas in manufacturing or storage and warehousing or even construction, maybe as kind of the cleanup crew.
I am writing down so furiously all these things.
I've got it. Eric, I printed off a copy of the law to give to my co-host, Dave Noriega. Eric Olson is with the Utah Labor Commission. We're talking to him in light of these allegations that surfaced at the federal level against a Utah company. And the kids were, allegedly working hours that were too long and working with equipment that they shouldn't have been working with. But we wanted to know what the state law said, and Eric is our go-to person for that. Let's say a kid does get a retail job or a job at Dave's favorite fast food restaurant, and they're working till midnight during the school year. And we know that they can't do that legally because they're underage. That's too many hours, too late at night. Where do the parents report that? Can they turn in the employer?
Yeah, there's a couple of recourses for parents if they're worried about that and they feel like, that some of those laws are being abused. If you have concerns about what's going on with your kid's job, or you're having issues, or they're having issues getting paid, or what you just talked about with hours, you can contact the Utah Anti-Discrimination and Labor Division at the Utah Labor Commission, so laborcommission.utah.gov, as well as the U.S. Department of Labor Wage and Hour Division. That's the Fed. So you've got recourse through the state and through the federal government as well.
Well, we appreciate you joining us, Eric Olson, with the Utah Labor Commission. Fascinating conversation.
And if you think your kid, that employer would never not pay my child. We've had that experience in our own home. Guess what Mom and Dad wanted to do? I'll go shake that tree. I'll go shake that owner out of their $100 that they owe you. No, what usually ends up happening is Mom comes up with $100 and says, you know what? We really appreciate your service to the community. Thanks so much for working for that employer that didn't pay you. Great information. If you missed it, you'll find all that information at kslnewsradio.com. We'll do a write-up about it, compile it all, and let it land right there on your one-stop shopping for all things on the Dave and Dujanovic Show.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Before Dave and Debbie get started each day, this station is all news all morning.
And later today, we follow up on those stories as you drive home.
Get important news all morning and all afternoon.
Here on KSL News Radio.
A change in seasons is coming.
Most schools are back.
So if it's your turn to drive the kids,
or you just need to get to work on time,
we have you covered.
Traffic and weather together every 10 minutes on the 9s.
From KSL News Radio.
102.7 FM and 1160 AM.
Or ask Alexa. Play KSL News Radio.
I've done some baby electrical work, like very, very simple, like switch out a light plate. I don't mess with electrical, Debbie, because it makes me a little nervous because I don't know what I'm doing.
I want you to call Master Electrical. They have what's called upfront pricing, and I love this concept. They come to your home, they give you your upfront price, and the price doesn't go up. Whenever I've gotten a bid in the past, I get worried that the longer the expert is there working on whatever the problem is I need fixed, that the price is just going to go up and up and up. That's not the case with Master Electrical, and they do everything. You want those downlights, those can lights in your ceilings. They're so popular. They do that. They do ceiling fans, smoke detectors, generators, EV charger installations.
Again, all of this with their upfront pricing guarantee.
Master Electrical proudly serves from Logan to Santaquin, so they cover a huge swath of the Wasatch Front, and they're always open, including their emergency services.
Give them a call, 866-569-0860, 866-569-0860, or check them out online at masterelectrical.com.
Sometimes we're faced with a crossroads in life and we don't know which path to take. Maybe you're thinking about a career change or feeling like your relationship needs some TLC. Whatever it is, BetterHelp Therapy can help you map out your future and trust yourself to find the way forward. BetterHelp is entirely online therapy that offers video, phone, or even live chat online therapy sessions. You have a busy life, so BetterHelp is designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist in under 48 hours, and you can also switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Give BetterHelp Online Therapy a try and get on your way to being your best self. Get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/KSL. That's betterhelp.com/KSL.
Held over due to popular demand. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to save 40 to 80% on a hot tub and swim spa. 4 days only, Friday through Monday. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Be advised, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to save 40 to 80% on a hot tub and swim spa. 4 days only, Friday through Monday. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. 18-month interest-free financing. Our factories have demanded we sell 1,000 hot tubs and swim spas this weekend. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Huge factory incentives, factory rebates, this weekend only. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. We can remove your old hot tub. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Hot tub starting at $2,999. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Just relax and enjoy. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Friday noon to 8, Saturday 10 to 8, Sunday 10 to 6, Monday 10 to 6. Free admission, free parking, free delivery. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Call 833-SPA-SALE or visit hottubandSwimSpaSale.com.
This Labor Day, hospitals need extra blood. ARUP Blood Services has 2 locations open 7 days a week. Save a life. Help someone in need. Visit utahblood.org. utahblood.org.
Boyd Matheson on political expectations.
Sadly, I think we've been conditioned as voters to look to Washington to solve all the big problems of the day. And what we really need to recognize is that our politicians rarely lead. It's community and culture that lead, and the politicians follow. If we're going to have a different kind of politics in the country, we have to expect different from our politicians.
Join Inside Sources with Boyd Matheson, 1 to 3 on KSL News Radio.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, Sandy police are trying to find suspects in the shooting of a man found in a church parking lot yesterday. Second, the head of the National Association of Realtors has resigned after being accused of sexual harassment. He says that's just not true. And third, people living on the Florida Gulf Coast getting ready for Hurricane Idalia. Some communities are being evacuated. Right now, 82 degrees and sunny in Salt Lake City. And back to Dave and Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
The Race for the White House. Special coverage on KSL News Radio.
Well, where is Ron? Well, we know he's in Florida right now. He stepped away from the campaign trail to focus on Hurricane Idalia. But here's the headline about his political future, his options, or his potential of being the next president of the United States. You ready for this headline?
I'm ready.
Desagging. Desagging. Florida governor drops in Politico rankings.
Did Trump come up with that name? You know, he loves the nicknames. DeSanctimonious, Desagging.
He was supposed to be the heir apparent, right? I mean, he was supposed to be the heir apparent, but yet when he got to the debate stage, although some would say he had a fine showing if you compared him against the other 70 million people who were on stage during that debate. He really said some things that might not have resonated with some of the base.
So as president, would you support sending U.S. Special Forces over the border into Mexico to take out fentanyl labs, to take out drug cartel operations? Would you support that kind of American military use?
Yes, and I will do it on day one. Here's the thing.
Okay, so day one, he's sending the U.S. military into a border country, into Mexico.
That might be frowned upon, Ron. But I think what it does, it speaks to the frustration at the southern border. He is a state that deals with illegal immigration, largely from Cuba, but he's also experienced this. So I don't know. I'm sure there's more to this story than we're invading Mexico.
So what do you think happened to Ron DeSantis? He was supposed to be the heir apparent, but according to Politico, Trump's lead is more than it's like, okay, so he's ahead by 42 percentage points or something like that. And DeSantis is nowhere near President Trump, although he is second in the pack who are running for the GOP nomination. He's just nowhere near. If you look at an average, I'm looking at all kinds of numbers, so forgive me here. I'm trying to work through this here. 538, let's look at there. Trump is at 52%, and DeSantis is at 14%. And I'll give him the 0.7%. So if you round up, he's at 15%. And then Ramaswamy is at almost 10%. So DeSantis is nowhere near where President Trump is. Former President Trump, has such a stronghold on the base. But DeSantis can't get anywhere near him. Not even close.
You asked why.
Yeah.
And I think that's an important question. And I think I've hit on it.
Go.
I'm
Please.
absolutely convinced I know why it is that Joe Biden is the president, why President Trump is so polarizing, and why Ron DeSantis, is that what he calls him?
DeSanctimonious.
He's changed it 10 different times, but it's because we value personality over competency. And so often when we talk about Ron DeSantis, I've got to focus on it. I've got to consciously
let me help you with that.
DeSantis is out. I think he's gone. So he was at a level. People have figured him out. He's gone.
I cannot believe it. I've got to think about it. Ron DeSantis. Yeah, we value personality over competency. And when you look at the record, what he has done in Florida, especially during COVID, he has made some really good decisions. If you're a conservative, you love Ron DeSantis. You love it because he is competent. But he's not a great personality. He's not someone you could put your arm around, hey, buddy, and he's not going to backslap you when he meets you. President Biden is a kind old uncle. You know, that's kind of how you would view him. Donald Trump is a fighter. We kind of like that personality. We value personality over performance, and that is a huge mistake. Let's look at Ron DeSantis's performance in Florida. Floridians love him. He won a state that is neck and neck. He won it by 20 points. They love him in Florida because they know he's competent.
Maybe they don't. I mean, we're just giving him a blanket A+++. All his policies on COVID were good. I think there's people that would push back on that and say, no, they weren't. They were very much about him and making national headlines.
Oh, I totally disagree.
He came to Utah a few weeks ago. He got the support of a number of Republican lawmakers. They, in fact, endorsed him for president. And, you know, he still hasn't made any headway in the polling, but he made some comments about the curriculum change regarding slavery, and it almost seemed to, whitewash the experience, the actual experience that the slaves went through. And right after that, those comments, his poll numbers started to sink. I mean, that's not the direction you want to go when you're at this point in the campaign. I don't care if it is months and months and months out. You don't want to see your poll numbers sagging, and they have been sagging. After he left Utah and made those comments, which made national news over an entire weekend, his poll numbers went from, going off the top of my head, like 20% down to like 15%. And now he's below 15%. And in some polls, I've seen him even lower. So this idea that the Floridians love him, well, I can't say that for sure. Right now, with Hurricane Idalia bearing down and expected to be this horrible situation with a storm surge, there are tens of thousands of Floridians who sit without homeowners insurance because for years and years and years, fraud has been allowed to go unchecked with roof repairs. And so these cases end up in court to the tune of billions of dollars lost by insurance companies to these fraudulent claims. Well, just now, state government and lawmakers are trying to get their arms wrapped around that, and now they're trying to bring in more insurance companies. Well, they've lost 12 insurance companies in a year and a half, and he's on the campaign trail. So I'm not saying Floridians love him. I've seen tons of comments from Floridians who want him to help them get their homes insured. There's where I stand on that.
Well, of course you're going to have people that love him and hate him. That's every politician that's ever lived. I'm saying Florida was typically a state that is a what do they call it? The back and forth state.
Purple.
Yeah, I mean it's not necessarily one of those red states that you could always count on. But again, this was 8 months ago. He won that state by 20 points. The first time he was elected governor, he won by 30,000 votes. He won by millions this time.
Maybe what's happening then with his national polling is that he may be a beloved son in Florida, but the rest of the country is not aligning with his A, personality, and B, his policies.
Well, I think it's more Trump's popularity that is taken away from DeSantis than anything else.
It's 10:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bonas. KSL's top story this hour. Salt Lake City will be getting a permanent camp for unsheltered people as early as October. City officials are keeping quiet, though, about its location. KSL News Radio's Peter Johnson has that story.
Salt Lake City and state officials are saying winter is coming, and this is part of a larger effort to prepare warm beds for the unhoused. Mayor Erin Mendenhall says the city council is looking at a couple of places that could bed 50 people, but she won't reveal where those are yet. One reason could be a memory of the 2019 fight to place several homeless resource centers across Salt Lake and its neighboring towns, which resulted in a huge wave of blowback.
The Salt Lake Tribune reports city leaders hope to have a pilot version of the campground ready by October. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Officials in Florida bracing for landfall for Hurricane Idalia, expected to hit the western coast of Florida on Wednesday morning. Idalia is expected to make landfall somewhere in the Big Bend north of Cedar Key. Local officials south of that area said people should still remain vigilant. Hillsborough County Administrator Bonnie Wise says people should heed the evacuation warnings for low-lying areas.
Regardless of what it looks like outside, stay away from the water, at least through Wednesday, until emergency managers give the all clear.
Coastal storm surges could reach 10 to 15 feet in some areas when the storm hits. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average up 237 points today. The NASDAQ also up strongly, 228 points right now. And our KSL weather, we've got sunshine and we could hit 100 today. That's next. KSL News Time, 10:31.
This summer, the political season heats up.
By August, it'll be time for debates. Can you believe it?
We're planning coverage of the real issues, the important stories that impact how we live.
Listen each morning from 5 to 9 on KSL News Radio.
Tim Jr. here from RGS Exteriors. I want you to know that it's the little things that count. Any remodeler can say they treat customers right. When it comes to siding, gutters, windows, and exteriors, it's hard to know for sure. If a contractor uses cheap generic nails instead of super grippy ridge shaft nails for your siding, would you even know? If they use cheap $4 caulk to install your new windows instead of paying $9 a tube for the good stuff, could you tell by looking? It all comes down to the details and trust. At RGS Exteriors, we only do things one way, the right way. We never cut corners. We never skimp on details. We never do less than the job requires. That's why we offer our industry's exclusive 10-year everything guarantee. And it's why we have the happiest customers. If you need any gutters, siding, or replacement windows, call RGS Exteriors at 801-280-3110 or visit rgsutah.com. That's 801-280-3110 or online at rgsutah.com.
Some days I cover up because of my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis. Now I'm hitting the road with clearer skin thanks to Skyrizi, Risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection for adults who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy. With Skyrizi, 3 out of 4 people achieved 90% clearer skin at 4 months. And Skyrizi is just 4 doses a year after 2 starter doses.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check for infection and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms such as fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, or if you plan to or recently received a vaccine.
Thanks to Skyrizi, there's nothing on my skin, and that means everything. Your doctor today about Skyrizi, the #1 dermatologist prescribed biologic in psoriasis, and visit skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKY-RIZZI to learn more.
Her name is Becky Edwards, and she's the common sense conservative we need in Congress. A proven fiscal conservative, Becky Edwards is unafraid to stand up to communist China or the big spenders in Washington to end the inflation that's hurting Utah families. Becky Edwards will defend our freedoms and support term limits like she did here in Utah. Becky Edwards, ready to make Washington work the Utah way.
I'm Becky Edwards, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Becky Edwards for Congress.
A stranger with a gun fires on 2 teens, shattering lives. But that's only the beginning of this story. Listen to The Letter at theletterpodcast.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Granite Credit Union's high-yield savings certificates. Here's Heather Kelly.
Well, for the first time all morning long, we don't have any delays on the freeways. So right now, if you're throughout Utah, Salt Lake, Davis, or Weaver counties, you're going to have good speeds, whether you're north, south, east, or west. Some of the city streets are still a bit congested, but overall, we've got a pretty good drive. with no major accidents reported. Renew your smile with Grandpa's Dental. Grandpa's Dental offers cosmetic and routine dentistry. Visit grandpasdental.com for a location near you. That's grandpasdental.com. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, south winds today pushing temperatures up to record levels, possibly up to 100. Tomorrow, temperatures drop back into the 80s. There's a chance of thunderstorms again on Friday and Saturday. Right now, it's 84 degrees with sunshine at KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM, 1160 AM, and KSLNewsRadio.com. Your all-day companion for news.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Dave and I took a real deep dive into the survey yesterday, spent 30 minutes on it. It's about bullying. And the Boys and Girls Club did this phenomenal 130,000 kid questionnaire. There's one part of it that stood out to us. I mean, they asked lots of great questions of our kids, and we'll talk about a lot of those later, but the bullying aspect of it. 40% of those kids who were surveyed said they've been bullied at school in the last year. And the number that really jumped out at me, too, is 38% didn't tell an adult.
And that makes some sense to me because adults are so sensitive, especially to their children. And that's my guess, is the kids aren't telling mom and dad because they don't want to stress them out. They don't want them to overreact. They don't want to make things worse. So I think there's a little bit of a trust issue where they think if I tell the adult is going to make it worse.
Yeah, or they won't do anything.
Or won't believe me.
Maybe. I think from a child's perspective, if you see somebody else being bullied on the playground and it keeps happening over and over again, maybe you feel you don't know if the other child has reported it, so you don't know if there's been an adult intervention at all. Like, these are big words kids wouldn't even understand. Like, you don't know if it's been dealt with because you see it happening over you. So you assume that if you report it, well, nothing will happen, and then I'll be a snitch. And I don't want to be called a rat. And like you said, Dave, they don't want to make the problem worse on themselves.
Yeah, and again, when you're talking with kids and kids that are being bullied, I'm not sure what the average age is, but that being said, you're dealing with immature kids that maybe don't have the perspective or understanding that, no, your best case scenario, your best course to change this is to talk to an adult.
So after we took an in-depth look at that survey and talked to psychologist Tom Golightly about what to do, in our own homes, like asking your child, do you feel safe at school? And then letting them talk. Don't try to shut them down. And then going through the proper channels to deal with it at school, as opposed to like marching yourself as a parent over to the playground and dealing with themselves. We got curious about, like, how do schools handle it? What do they do, or what do they notice? And what are the areas that kids are more likely to be bullied? Is it at recess? Is it in the bathrooms? So let's get Travis Warnick. He's the principal at Bountiful High School on the line with us. Good morning, Principal Warnick.
Hey, good morning.
So start there. What do you look for inside the schools to spot bullying? I mean, do you have people on like bathroom patrol and that kind of thing to make sure kids aren't being bullied in the bathrooms or during? I guess you're a high school principal, like during recess, that kind of thing, during break.
I will tell you guys are spot on. It seems to be in the unstructured times, in what we call transition times. In elementaries, it might be at recess. In high schools, it might be passing periods or at lunch. Those unstructured times are so critical. And so schools, we've got to be out and about. The bell rings, we have to be like Pavlov's dog and be out in the hallways and just be visible and present. Keep our eyes and ears open. That is so critical. Just to be available.
Yeah.
What is the most common form of bullying that you see in the high school level?
Oh, wow. I see a lot of cyber stuff, a lot of text, Snapchat kind of things that and we watch for it closely, and we have a pretty good relationship with kids that they can bring it to us, and they know that we'll handle it. Like you said, some kids are afraid of it won't be responded to, or it will be overblown. Well, the first time we respond to it, we're going to respond. They need to have that trust that we will respond appropriately, but we will respond. Ignoring it is never the option, because cyber Snapchat group tasks, they are just vicious.
Which raises a question for me. By the way, we're on the line with principal at Bountiful High School, Travis Warnick. In light of this survey, this is 40% of kids reported being bullied at school in the last year, and that a lot of those kids are afraid to tell an adult. How do you know without a child telling you? Because if kids are keeping it a secret and they're not telling a teacher or a parent, what are some of the flags that you're looking for?
That is $1 million question. Yeah. By being out and being present, and not just standing in the hallway, but actually engaging with kids, looking for the kid that is maybe a little isolated, won't make eye contact, that might be worth a conversation. Hey, how are things? Another thing we really look for is a drastic change in behavior. And if I knew the kid beforehand and he was bubbly and fun to be around, and then he's suddenly withdrawn and quiet, then I know that's a conversation I need to have, or my counselors need to have, or a teacher needs to have, or a mentor needs to have. But if I didn't know him beforehand, I won't know that he's changed. So we watch really closely for changes in behavior. That is a big red flag for us to be aware of, for sure.
Over the last several years, Principal Warnick, I've learned more and more about the Hope Squad and students coming together, faculty advisors trying to create this environment or even this group of folks that can help kids that are in trouble.
Yeah, and our Hope Squad does an amazing job at making it's almost like the mental health conversation, where we've tried hard to take the stigma out of getting help for mental health. We've got to take the stigma out of getting help for bullying. Like, dude, you have the right to be treated with respect on this campus. It's not a bad thing. You're not a tattletale. You're not a snitch. You're standing up for what is right, and you have the right. And that's one message that Hope Squad gets out, that everyone at Bountiful High School counts and matters, and you have the right to be treated with some dignity in this campus. So Hope Squad helps. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I used to tell my kids, and I said this yesterday on the show as well, that by stopping a bullying today, you might be helping another child down the road. And that really resonated with my kids in terms of, like, they're doing the right thing by reporting it to the right people. Do you find it more with happening to girls, or do you find it happening more to boys?
I think it's 50-50. And I think the fear to report it is also pretty equal. That's why I love Davis. We have HDRS, which is our reporting system, and they can report it anonymously. So we can have a conversation. A lot of times we talk to the bully and they honestly don't know that they're being a bully. Great. My job is to teach them and help them understand what it looks like when you're a bully and you're being a jerk, and knock it off. And we need to help them learn that.
I've heard the phrase, we have zero tolerance for bullying, but I thought you touched on it in a great way. A lot of times these kids whose brains are still forming and learning, they don't realize what's happening. So how do you balance this zero tolerance mantra that people want you to have, at the same time understanding, or we're trying to teach kids not just reading and math, but how to treat each other?
And I think zero tolerance can lead to zero common sense sometimes. And we respond to every claim of bullying, every claim 100%. Now, our response has to have some common sense. And where are we at? And how can I educate this kid? Not necessarily punish and suspend, but how can I educate him to be a better member of society? My goal is not to make him a better student at Bountiful. But when he goes out in the real world, does he know how to interact with other people the right way? We have to be able to do that. It doesn't have to be by punishment alone, but by educate and teach and look at this and let's learn some empathy about this. So that is a big push. We can be zero tolerance, but it has to have some common sense.
Oh, I just don't want to be done with this conversation.
Sure.
But we have to be because we're running out of time. So, okay, 20 seconds. Have you seen it where the bully realizes the light bulb moment goes off over their skull, and they turn around and go and apologize to the person that they've been bullying?
Do you know what? If we handle it right, I would say that is the outcome more often than not. And that is the thing I love the most about my job, is when I don't just have to deal with the bullying, but I can mend a fence, and now I've got a couple of allies on my campus.
Yeah.
And it happens frequently.
Principal Warnick, thank you for joining us, taking the time from your busy schedule. Bountiful High School principal, thanks.
Straight ahead, we're going to ask this question. Should school districts supply housing for teachers to combat the teacher shortage? We're going to take a look at what they're doing in Kansas City.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Hey, stay right here for more of Dave and Dujanovic.
And tomorrow morning, come back here for news, traffic updates, and reliable weather.
Join us to have a listen. Tim and Amanda.
Your morning companions for news. I lost 34 pounds on the SOTA weight loss system. It'll be 2 years this December that I started the program.
Crazy to think about.
Yes. And what's so awesome about that is that not only did I lose the 34 pounds in less than 3 months, but who cares about that if you gain it right back? With SOTA weight loss, SOTA stands for state of the art. They stay with you for the rest of your life if you want them to. The maintenance program is offered for the rest of your life so that when you do fall down a little bit or you gain a pound here or there, or maybe something, your diet has to change for medical reasons, they can keep you where you need to be.
And it's that one-on-one treatment that you get from a nutritionist who becomes a friend along the way.
For sure.
And their goal is the same as yours. We've said this time and time again, but they want to make sure you keep that weight off, just like you do. My daughter started about the same time you did. She lost 42 pounds, and she's been able to keep hers off. Gains a couple, loses a couple, and they're right there to help her through the maintenance phase at no extra charge. Find out more by going to SOTAweightloss.com, spelled SOTA. Think Tim and Amanda. It is state-of-the-art.
Home is your sanctuary, or is it? If you're tired of yard work, too much space to clean over multiple levels, listen up. Start enjoying home a little more with Nielsen Homes' newest single-level townhomes. Move-in ready without the thought of tedious yard work and close to all the things you love and enjoy. Nielsen Homes offers spacious single-level open floor plans without stairs or yard work and a lower 5.5% interest rate. Nielsen Homes has been building homes across the Wasatch Front for over 45 years. They understand all stages of life and build homes to accommodate the things you need, paired with things you love. See their newest single-level living community in Davis and Weber County, close to golf, pickleball, and more. It's low-maintenance luxury single-level living. No stairs, no more lawnmowers, no yard work, no waiting, and no high interest rates. Visit Nielsen Homes Communities at nielsenhomes.com. Call 385-389-1160. Online at nilsonhomes.com.
Power outages happen year-round, and they're always unexpected. What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and some people have medical equipment that needs to stay on, or maybe you don't want the hundreds of dollars of food in the freezer to spoil. Regardless of the reasons, Any Hour Services can help with a backup generator. Now, a lot of people think that backup generators cost thousands of dollars, but we have packages that'll run the essentials and start at less than $2,500. That includes the generator, the connections from the generator to the house, and the installation. We also carry and install larger generators that can run the whole house and kick on automatically when the power goes out. Of course, those cost more, but if you call right now, you can save $1,000 on any standby generator purchase over 9,000 watts. A licensed electrician from Any Hour Services will walk you through the process and show you what options are available. And if you need it, we have flexible financing options available, even if you've been told no in the past. To schedule a free estimate, call Any Hour Services today. Google Any Hour Services or schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Get lost in art during Art in the Park at This Is the Place Heritage Park. Stroll natural beauty with over 80 artists September 8th and 9th. Tickets visit thisistheplace.org.
Tim and Amanda, Utah's Morning News.
Trust is more important in our business, Tim, than it's ever been in my lifetime, in all of my many years of being here at KSL, because there's so much misinformation out there. And there's so much information that is heavy laden with opinion. When you come to us in the morning, what you get is the news. You get what's happening without a lot of spin or opinion and without any misdirection. That's just the pure, simple thing that you get.
When you talk about the misinformation that's out there, which there is, sometimes those stories just change from one morning to the next. And so hopefully you feel like each day as new information becomes available or we learn new things, this was certainly true during the pandemic, this is the place where we're going to share that information with you and talk about the things that are going to most affect your life.
Wake up with Utah's Morning News with Tim and Amanda between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, a camp for people experiencing homelessness planned for Salt Lake City this winter, but city officials won't say just where. Second, a state legislator wants to see Utah's vote-by-mail system become something voters have to sign up for. And third, storm surges from Hurricane Idalia could reach 10 to 15 feet in some low-lying coastal communities. Evacuations have been ordered before the storm makes landfall. Right now, 84 degrees and sunny in Salt Lake City. And back to Dave and Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Let's talk about this concept that seems to be growing across the nation. Schools, with the help of nonprofits as well, building housing for teachers and renting them out, like a room to them in that house. It's often, like there's what do they call it? Roommates. Hello. You and I have had work.
I couldn't think of swing state like 30 minutes ago.
You are giving me your word disease today. Like,
I've infected you. What is that when people live together?
They forget. Oh, roommates.
Roommates, yeah. Thank you. Yeah, got it.
So it costs a teacher about $400 a month to live for their housing expense, for their housing costs, and it's making it easier for school districts to recruit because we do know that housing is so expensive all over the United States. But I think it could work here. Let's talk about it.
Well, I think there is a problem right now. We think that we just need to pay teachers more money. There are benefits that we can offer that are every bit as enticing as just cold hard cash, right? We offer good benefits, insurance, 401ks, pension programs. There's a lot of things we do in the public sector where we try to entice you and say, listen, you're not going to make a huge amount of money salary-wise, not like the private sector, but perhaps we can entice you with some of these other bennies.
Yeah, so speaking of bennies, so this isn't just happening in Kansas City. Are we doing this in Utah anywhere?
Yeah.
57500, are we doing this?
Okay.
I want text from listeners, 57500. If you're in a position to text us and you know of a program like this in Utah, enlighten us.
Building housing for teaching.
Yeah, building housing. And in some cases, some states are doing it where they're building housing for teachers to buy so they can build equity. Like they'll own the home. But let's talk about how this concept is working. And they're doing it in multiple states. And it's not put politics aside. Doesn't matter if you're Republican, Independent, Democrat. All the states of, all different political parties are doing this. Like, for example, they're doing this in rural areas in California. They're doing this in areas of Florida. They're doing it in Kansas City. And they're doing it in other parts of the country as well. They're doing it in Milwaukee, for example. So let me give you an example of what is happening in Milwaukee. Let's go to Milwaukee. There's a teacher there who they use as an example in this article about this program. She earns about $48,000 a year. So boiled down, her take home's probably between, what do you think, $3,000 and $3,200 a month take home. Let's say after she pays, health care and whatever else, puts a little money in her retirement, a 401k, pays taxes. Her rent is $1,400 a month plus change. That's just rent. That doesn't include utilities. That doesn't include, if she wants to eat. It doesn't include money to stock her fridge. So what is that? About half her take home goes to rent. She earns $48,000 a year. And so what they've done there is they've teamed up with looks like a nonprofit. They opened a duplex up there the school district did, and they're going to house 25 teachers.
In the duplex?
Well, hold on a second. First duplex in February and has plans to house up to 25 teachers.
Okay, probably not all in one. I'm sure this is, we want to grow.
It's probably a complex or something like that. But anyway, so these are the kind of the concepts they're trying to, come up with in order to attract teachers and keep them in the district. And they charge them like, $400 or $500 a month to lease a room in the duplex or the apartment complex.
It's intriguing to me. I've got some mixed feelings because, number one, do I want my tax dollars that are going to the school district, do I want them to go into the real estate game where they're buying up houses or duplexes or condominiums, whatever it might be, so that they can help subsidize teacher housing? Do I want that? Not necessarily. I don't want the government competing with everybody else for housing. That doesn't feel like the right step. But that being said, if I were a teacher and a school district offered me this, subsidized housing, because the military does this, right? Our tax dollars go to the military. The military offers housing or subsidized housing, and it is a great recruiting tool.
You can't recruit teachers right now.
It's difficult.
Yeah, if I were getting just out of college and looking at places to live, and whatever the starting pay is, $50,000, $52,000 a year, you can't afford a $1,500 a month rent realistically with any other expenses. And if you need to provide for kids, daycare expenses, so you can go to work 9 months out of the year, you can't afford that. So your options are slim to none when housing prices are averaging $660K, let alone saving up for the down payment. I think this is a great idea. I think we should be exploring it. And it doesn't have to be government buying up properties. It can be nonprofits going in and buying up properties and then turning around and renting out space to teachers. I think it's a great recruiting tool, particularly for new teachers who may not have family in an area they can rent from. Maybe they don't feel comfortable sharing an apartment with somebody they've never met before. I like it. It's a step in the right direction, and I also think it might lure more people into the teaching profession because I do think paid. You say, well, they get 3 months off a year. Yeah, that doesn't fly anymore. This just doesn't fly anymore. When you can't afford to live, let alone go anywhere or do anything with that 3 months off, that's not a benefit. That's not a benefit. You just sit around for 3 months and you're bored because you can't afford to do anything.
Well, there's a lot of jobs out there that don't pay as well as teachers.
But we use that as I see that all the time for people. Well, you get 3 months off in the summer. Well, if you can't afford your rent, how are you going to afford to do anything in that 3 months off? So I just think you need to give them an option.
You asked, are we doing this in Utah? And this is what I found. You'll remember the Park City School District bought a house, $870,000 house in the Park City School District, but it wasn't for a teacher, it was for a superintendent. It was one of those benefits. So not only did the superintendent make a salary, a couple $100,000, I think had a district-provided car as well, but then had this home that she could live in while she's the superintendent. And then, once she leaves that job, then she doesn't get a cash out on the house. She doesn't get that, but they do provide this already, but for a superintendent. Top level, not just teachers.
Not entry level.
But they're already doing it a little bit. Perhaps that's a business model.
That's a great discussion. Might be a solution. Maybe. We'll keep an eye on it.
KSL FM Midvale, KSL Salt Lake City. Listen on the KSL News Radio app and in your car at 102.7 FM. KSL News Radio, your all-day companion for news.
It's 11 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top story this hour. A lawmaker from Morgan County wants to require Utahns to opt in to voting by mail. Right now, clerks send ballots automatically to any active registered voter. Representative Kara Birkeland is running a bill that would change it.
I think voting is a privilege. I think that people should actively engage in the process and not just sit at home and hope that their ballot comes and that they haven't been accidentally or purposely removed from a voting list.
Birkeland says this would save counties money and clean up voter rolls because clerks would only send ballots to people who opt in. Critics argue it will make it just more cumbersome for all Utahns to vote. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Preparations kick into high gear today from Floridians bracing for Hurricane Idalia. Could become a Category 3 storm by the time it makes landfall around the Gulf Coast overnight. National Hurricane Center's Michael Brennan warns residents in the affected areas to evacuate if they can by this afternoon because they don't want to try and do it after the storm makes landfall.
This is going to be your last chance to get out. Conditions are going to really deteriorate as we go overnight tonight. In addition to that, we're expecting a major hurricane landfall. From a wind perspective, we're going to have destructive winds near the core where it comes on shore somewhere in the Big Bend area, and then an inland wind event as this hurricane moves quickly inland.
The most dangerous effect of the hurricane is the storm surge that could inundate coastal areas with 10 to 15 feet of seawater. Representative Steve Scalise, the Republican majority leader in the U.S. House, has been diagnosed with multiple myeloma, a type of blood cancer. Scalise says he's begun treatment, which will continue for the next several months, and he intends to come back to Washington and continue working after Congress ends its summer recess. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average up 216 points on the day. The NASDAQ also up 212 points at this hour. And our KSL weather, we could set a record today with our high temperature if it gets to 100. That's next. KSL News Time, 11:02.
Early mornings can be hard enough, just getting yourself going.
We try to make it a little easier with news and weather from comfortable, trusted anchors and reporters.
Join us on Utah's Morning News between 5 and 9
on KSL News Radio.
Have you Googled yourself lately? Are there negative posts from an ex-employee or from a former client? Maybe an outdated news article or sensitive personal information about your family? Search engines don't always get it right. For right or wrong, it's your reputation on the line. That's where Reputation Defender by Norton comes in. One of the most trusted names in online reputation repair, Reputation Defender has been fixing people's search results for over 15 years. Their cutting-edge approaches help you to wipe away unwanted information in your search results. They also promote the good stuff so that it rises to the top, helping you put your best foot forward. Your good name is too valuable to leave to the whims of a Google algorithm. Take control with Reputation Defender. You can start by getting your free reputation report card at reputationdefender.com or call 800-401-6681 to speak to an expert. That's 800-401-6681.
Getting close to retirement? Or have you retired? You've probably got a ton of stress-filled questions on your mind. I'm Jeff Jr. with Trajan Wealth. Getting a second opinion with an individualized investment plan is vital, and our fiduciary advisors do just that. Take it from this Trajan Wealth client.
It was just so pleasant, so comfortable. I think we had 7 different accounts, just stuff scattered all over the place. And then so we just started, here's this, move this. And he even explained it a couple different times. But if I have more questions, he said, just give us a call. And that's what I love. He's a phone call away. I'm glad I know these guys. Such a huge weight off my shoulder.
Imagine not second-guessing investments or monthly retirement income. That's the peace of mind you'll get from working with Trajan Wealth. Call 801-899-7600 today or visit TrajanWealth.com.
Actual client, no compensation, no conflicts. Advisory services offered through Trajan Wealth, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor.
Donate today with ARUP Blood Services. Give local, save local. Open 7 days a week. Donate blood or platelets at either of 2 convenient donor centers. Visit utahblood.org.
Ron had a tax problem he just couldn't handle on his own.
I owed the IRS taxes for over 5 years, but I didn't have any money to pay the taxes.
Those years cost him dearly.
Most of it was fees and interest. It was horrible.
Ron finally called in the pros.
I called Optima Tax Relief, and boy, am I happy I did.
The leading tax resolution firm, Optima, is A-plus rated by the Better Business Bureau. They've resolved over $1 billion for their clients. Ron was overjoyed.
They settled my account with IRS. I was ecstatic. They are a lifesaver. They are. I am so happy.
Take Ron's advice and call Optima now for a free consultation.
Yeah, don't do like I did and wait. Call Optima Tax Relief. Do it now. You'll be ecstatic like me.
Call 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460.
Optima Tax Relief.
Testimonial from an actual client. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Granite Credit Union's high yields, or brought to you by Granite Credit Union's new Dividend Plus checking account. Here's Ricky Meeks.
It's a really nice drive on all the Valley freeways, but we do have a side street crash in the Taylorsville area, 5400 South at 1500 West. Utah Symphony's Films in Concert series delivers full feature films on the big screen as the orchestra plays the soundtrack live. Tickets are on sale now at utahsymphony.org. Ricky Meeks in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather. South winds today will push temperatures up to record levels, possibly up to 100. Tomorrow, temperatures drop into the 80s. There's a chance of thunderstorms again on Friday and Saturday. And right now, 84 degrees with sunshine at KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM, 1160 AM, and KSLNewsRadio.com. Your all-day companion for news.
Dave and Dujanovic have inside sources.
Well, post-debate polls are rolling in. We talked about Ron DeSantis still not able to claw his way out of the hole that he's put himself in over the last couple of months. Actually, he's gone backwards. And then we want to talk to Boyd as well about GOP candidate Nikki Haley.
The truth is that Biden didn't do this to us. Our Republicans did this to us, too. When they passed that $2.2 trillion COVID stimulus bill, they left us with 90 million people on Medicaid, 42 million people on food stamps. No one has told you how to fix it. I'll tell you how to fix it. They need to stop the spending. They need to stop the borrowing. They need to eliminate the earmarks that the Republicans brought back in. And they need to make sure they understand these are taxpayer dollars. It's not their dollars.
I loved hearing her say that. I was like, well done. Because, again, it's very easy to demonize the other guys. But when you look at your friends, you say, you know what? You did it too. That is where I think the truth and the honesty comes through.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was a brilliant moment for Nikki Haley on the debate stage to turn around and say, look, you're all complaining about President Biden. We better look in the mirror because Republican presidents and Republican Congresses
We all
have done
know
the same
it.
thing. Yeah.
We know it's been going on for years, and it's all parties are guilty.
Yeah, exactly. It's the collusion, not the conflict that's
saying
got us
it,
where we are.
It's saying it out loud in front of millions of Americans with the feist and the certainties that she delivered that in. That was a really profound moment.
It was a great moment, and that's always the test. So the test off of a debate stage is, can you take one of those moments and can you turn it into some momentum, and then can you take that momentum and turn it into a movement? That's always the test. And you can go back over the last several presidential cycles, and you'll see people will have these moments. Kamala Harris, as a presidential candidate, had a moment, but she could never parlay it into any kind of momentum or forward movement. Beto O'Rourke had some big stage moments, had a flash, but could never convert it and transform it into something that was sustainable in terms of the campaign. And so that's going to be the test for Nikki Haley. She actually had a number of really strong moments, clearly some strong moments on the debate stage in Milwaukee last week. And the question is, can she now take those wins and cobble it together? The thing that she has been lacking, and I think why she's been lagging in the polls, is because she doesn't have a story around it. She has some just great things. Foreign affairs, yep. If she's in the Oval Office behind the Resolute desk, I think America's pretty confident that things are going to be okay in terms of national security. This idea around spending, very specific, targeted at her own people, as well as the Democrats. But she's got to cobble that together into some sort of story or movement where people can say, yeah, I want to be part of that. And that's the thing that's been lacking in her campaign from the very beginning, from her announcement on.
So what do those look like? What would it look like in the example of Nikki Haley? Like, how do you craft?
Yeah, I think for Nikki Haley, I think she's got to take the experiences that she's had, obviously at the UN as an ambassador, as a governor. She's got some great track record there in the state of South Carolina. Again, an important early state for the Republican GOP nominee. And she's got to cobble those together into really an American story. This is what it means around the kitchen table. Because some people are going to say, yeah, we always talk about how important foreign affairs are, but my kitchen table's struggling. And so she's got to be able to translate her experience. And this is for all of the governors. Governor DeSantis has been horrible at translating what he's done in Florida to everybody else in the world. He just hasn't made that connection because it's been too Florida-centric. So you have to be able to take a big idea of, hey, I can lead. I can lead in difficult times. I can deal with challenging stuff. Here's what it means to your family, your pocketbook, your local community if I were sitting in the Oval Office.
Well, you said that. I'm like, I don't even know what Haley's done as governor. Which, I mean, is to your point.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm following these campaigns fairly closely. I mean, I don't live and breathe every single minute of my day seeing what the candidates are doing, but
and no one should.
Right. I try not to, but I just made your point for you.
Yeah, and it's interesting. She's leaned far more into her UN experience.
Yes, which I think is important.
Because that's the easiest one for people to identify her with, because it's the most recent. But she has not gone back to, hey, this is what she did as governor. She was the one who actually took down the Confederate flag off of the Capitol building in South Carolina. She led during the shooting at the Black Church in South Carolina. Really important one and tremendous leadership. So she has some of those moments, but she hasn't leaned into those as part of her campaign.
Thanks, Boyd, for doing campaigning for her.
I'm trying to remember
Just
the
balls
line.
and strikes.
I'm trying to remember the line, Deb, that you used or had seen in a headline for DeSantis. It was desagging or something in the poll numbers. It was some. Is that what it was?
Yeah. Politico said desagging. Florida governor drops in Politico rankings.
And Boyd, one thing that popped into my mind is I thought, when we're looking at these candidates, we value personality over competency.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we have these governors that have had great success, but because they don't have the right quote-unquote personality, they're not the fighter that President Trump is, or they're not grandfatherly like President Biden is, then all of a sudden we start overvaluing this personality, whereas me, you can be as boring as a rock, but if you can do the job, I love you.
Calvin Coolidge.
Is he super boring?
He's your guy, and it's a sad state of where we are and what we've allowed ourselves to be conditioned to do as voters, because it used to be the president was the one who was going to tell it to you straight. The buck stops here. But what we've evolved into is that now we have these emotive presidencies, whether it's President Obama, President Trump, where the focus is, I feel your pain. And they are meeting voters where they are, but they're just there to reflect the grievance or what they're mad about. That's not the job. That's not the job. The job is to shoot straight and to execute what Congress passes. And sadly, we've turned it into this performative stuff. And so that's where these leaders and where we as voters have to say, okay, this person really makes me feel good and warm and fuzzy on social media. But if we're dealing with Vladimir Putin and China, is this the person I want making that decision? Or if there's a natural disaster or a major crisis in America that we need to deal with, is this the person that I want? Or do I want someone who's going to make me feel good because they can reflect my grievances or my pain or my angst?
Yeah.
That's not the job. That's not the job of the President of the United States. And we've even branded it. We call him the consoler in chief.
Yeah.
You have to go to all the natural disasters. You have to go to all the things. You have to hug all the. That's not the job. And you should trust. In fact, Calvin Coolidge didn't go to a big natural disaster in Mississippi. And he was criticized because he didn't go and said, oh, if it was your state, he would go. Well, about 2 months later, there was a natural disaster in Vermont. He didn't go. He said, I trust the states to take care of it. It's not my job, and I trust the people. And so sadly, we've gotten so far afield of that, but we have to get back to it. And these people running for president have to recognize, yeah, you can play the game of the social, and you can win an election that way, and we're even seeing that here in the state of Utah. You can win an election flying high, social media, and ad campaigns. Doesn't mean you get to lead. It's a different job.
Boyd Matheson, thank you. Inside Sources today, 1 to 3.
Awesome. Thanks, Boyd. Next, we're going to talk about this takedown. 28 people charged in a major federal case involving all kinds of illegal narcotics. And what stuck out to Dave when he looked over the list of defendants in this case, what was that, Dave?
It looked like half of those accused that were named in this, women.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Did you know Utah has just one all-news station in the morning?
It's this one, weekday mornings between 5 and 9.
Start your days with us. We're Tim Hughes and Amanda Dixon.
Your morning companions for news.
4 more days until BYU's season opener. Join us Monday night for Cougar Nation. BYU insider Mitch Harper and Matt Baiamonte look ahead to the big game. This is going to be a lot of fun. And they take your phone calls. All new Cougar Nation. Monday night at 6 on KSL News Radio.
Every time I'm working on some stuff at home and I have to deal with the electrical stuff, I always fear I'm going to be shocked across the room. I get so nervous whenever I have to do something electrical.
That's why you have to call Master Electrical Day. We've been talking about Master Electrical because not only do they do so much, anything you can imagine inside your home that needs electrical wiring, they are on it. But I love this concept, the upfront pricing that they offer, because so often when you get a bid, it's anybody's guess as to what that final price is going to be. Not with Master Electrical. Upfront pricing, what you see up front is what you get. In fact, their software won't even let them change the bid amount.
Yeah, I've had bids before, and I am so frustrated and angry when I get the real bill and it's much higher than the bid. I'm like, why did we even bother with the bid process? They don't do that.
So if you need an EV charger installed, if you need a generator, if you need new lights in your ceilings, if you need smoke detectors updated, Master Electrical is your next phone call.
Again, all with that upfront pricing guarantee. All you have to do is give them a call, 866-569-0860, 866-569-0860.
Or check them out at masterelectrical.com.
Amanda, you just graduated, a senior out of high school, headed now on to the rest of his life, and we've been talking about how we can help our kids be more financially literate. How about UCCU's Credit Builder Loan? This is a simple way to learn and build or rebuild your credit.
Right, because we all need a good credit score. So how do we get that, especially when you're young? Here's what you do. When any of your children turn 16, and I'm late on Ethan, but I'm going to do it for both of my boys. When they turn 16, you just open a Credit Builder Loan in their name at UCCU, and that way by the time they turn 18, they've got a good credit score.
Here's the way it works. It is an account with a fixed amount of funds along with a small automatic monthly payment. And because your monthly payments are made automatically, all you do or all your child needs to do is sit back and let your credit build.
Why didn't we think of this? Well, that's because we depend on UCCU. Anyone who needs to benefit from credit building can benefit from this.
By the way, when young adults have good credit scores, they don't need to come to you as a cosigner for autos and other things. UCCU, you're going to love where you bank.
At Shane Company, we believe everybody is made to shine. It doesn't matter who you are or where you're from. Your moments, your milestones, your love story all deserve to shine bright. You don't need an occasion. You and your life are the event. So put on earrings that make you sparkle, diamonds that light up the room, an heirloom you'll treasure for years to come. We're all made to shine. Shane Company, fine jewelry since 1929.
Getting help with electrical repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
I'm Shanola Hampton. Every day, millions of people face hunger. Today, I will share with you some of their experiences. I'm stuck between paying for medications or paying for food. John from Maine. After paying my bills, I can buy groceries. It's sad to say, food comes last. Alice from Oregon. I thought pantries were for less fortunate people, but anybody could be less fortunate in a day or even a second. Claire from Virginia. The Feeding America network of food banks helps provide over 6 billion meals to people in need each year. No one should have to worry where their next meal will come from. Together, we can end hunger. Learn more at feedingamerica.org.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, vote by mail wouldn't be automatic under a proposal from one state legislator. Republican Keir Birkeland says voters need to be actively involved. Second, Steve Scalise, one of the top Republicans in Congress, has been diagnosed with cancer. And third, state officials in Florida urging people in low-lying areas along the Gulf Coast to get out now before Hurricane Idalia comes ashore. Right now, 84 degrees and sunny in Salt Lake City. Back to Dave and Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
Dave and Dujanovic.
We're going to talk about this massive drug arrest. 28 defendants criminally charged in what authorities say is a major, like a drug trafficking operation in the state of Utah. And Dave's looking over the list of people who were arrested and indicted. And what stood out to you?
Number one, that about half of these folks are women. Now, I don't know if that's stereotypical or what. I don't.
You're allowed to say
I was
it.
shocked that there were so many women that were named as essentially being these drug dealers.
Can I carry on with that thought? So not only are they women, they're middle-aged women. You know, a lot of them ages 40, you know, late 30s. 45,
51.
Yeah. And a lot of them live in our communities. I mean, you got one in Stansbury Park, West Valley City, Heber, Salt Lake City. I don't know where Gusher is, Gusher, Utah.
Or Clarkston.
Yeah. There's a defendant in Murray. Yeah, I mean, you know, West Jordan, it doesn't seem like any community went untouched. And there's some even up into the Montana area. But the female component of this, Dave, I think you are right to point that out. It's surprising to a lot of us that we're talking like methamphetamine distribution, allegations, cocaine.
Deb, the amount of cocaine is incredible. I do a lot of like soft water commercials here with Connecticut, right? And I talk about the 40-pound bags of salt. That's how much cocaine they found. It was nearly 40 pounds of cocaine. Hugo Ricard Bell has been following this story, and Hugo, the amount of drugs is staggering.
You wouldn't suspect that in Utah. A lot of us wouldn't. I mean, I maybe I would sort of because of my years of reporting here, and you know we talk about it on the show, but there is a lot of drugs involved.
Yeah, and it's the big three. It's cocaine, heroin, and methamphetamine. And I think people would be surprised at that sort of weight getting through Utah.
So what have you found out about this case and this investigation? And I think there's some interesting details that have been released as well by the U.S. Attorney's Office and where they were, and they were renting like short-term rentals and that kind of thing. Like, what have you learned?
So it's actually really interesting how this story even came about. So the main player in this, a guy called Yabani Figueroa, and I've probably just butchered his name, but Yabani Figueroa, he actually first came into our radar because 3 years ago he was involved in a hit and run where he hit a car and killed a 17-year-old boy, and then went on the run for 3 years and hadn't been caught. And so the first press release was, man who went on run for 3 years has finally been caught. And then I noticed this indictment of 28 people in across Utah, and he's the ringleader. And so he's getting charged under something called the continuing criminal enterprise, which is basically, a gangs type criminal charge. And he's the ringleader and according to the indictment, a high-ranking member of a gang called the La Raza Nation. They're a gang that started in the 70s in Chicago, but have affiliates sort of all over the place. And
he lives in Utah?
Yes, he does. Actually, in one of the releases or
Magna.
indictments I read, he has a child here and that sort of thing.
But he lives he's in Magna. He lives in Magna.
Yeah,
okay,
Magna,
so he lives in Utah.
And when they arrested him in these charging documents, said he possessed more than $300,000 in cash.
Yeah,
so.
Is
That's
this
my dream car and more, isn't it?
You've been talking to a lot of people who are involved in terms of like law enforcement in this world and have a lot of insight. What do they say about this and the fact that it's here in Utah? I don't know. I know it's not the first big arrest that's been made, but
this
what
is one of the biggest
it's
for a
one
long
of the
time.
biggest,
and
yeah.
you speak to anyone in law enforcement, former FBI, they're pretty good people to chat to. Particularly ones with organized crime involvement and experience. This is huge. This is a massive, massive bust, and basically, the first thing they'll tell you is 99%, particularly in methamphetamine, 99% of the meth in the United States comes from cartel organizations across the border. So the way the cartel works is they manufacture and they distribute in Mexico. It then gets moved to Southern California, and then in Southern California, it then gets spread across, or Arizona and those sort of border states, then gets spread across the state. And so basically, what this is pointing to is quite a large cartel operation in the state of Utah. And they believe, or the people I've spoken to will tell you, that Yabani Figueroa is a relatively high-ranking member in a Mexican cartel. And the way the cartel works is they contract out national gangs or smaller gangs. And that's why, you hear about bikie gangs moving meth across country. Street gangs are then the ones who distribute. So it's really like a giant sort of marketing scheme, really, where it's if say, Dave, if you run a building company, you might contract me to build the shelves in the house or something like that.
Right.
Well, that's how the cartel
subcontractor.
works. Yeah, they subcontract, and so that's what we're looking at through, and that's why Yabani Figueroa, he's the top dog, because he will be the guy who has the direct line of contact with one of these cartels.
What do you make of all of these female names on here?
Like I wonder how they recruited them too.
I mean, recruitment, I think you need to just take a moment and think about what it's like living in, a post-pandemic US where it's hard to earn money. And, there are a lot of people who have, inflation have really affected. And this is obviously a fast way to make money. As far as the female component, I think really I wasn't too shocked at that. I've sort of deep dived into a few of these sort of cases, and it is, there's not really any, there's no stereotype anymore. And I think what you're seeing here is that, it's anyone. It could be your neighbor. It could be your best friend from high school. It's literally anyone who needs money and has the means to do so.
Just quick last question here, Hugo. Do you have any insight on how the feds were tipped off to this?
This is, for me, the most interesting thing. Almost everyone in this indictment, it's 25 pages long, accidentally sold narcotics, big weights of narcotics, to undercover agents.
That'll do it.
How they were tipped off, I think it's as simple as understanding Utah's role in international trafficking between Mexico, Canada, and the US. I mean, we're at a crossroads of the two biggest freeway or
I-15
interstates.
and I-80.
So I think, I don't think it's a question of they were tipped off. I think it's just understanding that Utah has a role to play in the trade.
Hugo Rickard Bell, thank you for the reporting on this. Incredible that a drug trafficking ringleader, along with 28 defendants, have been charged in this major crime, this drug trafficking crime. Thank you. We got that from the...
So Hugo says, stand by for more. There's stay tuned. He's still looking into this, and there'll be more to come. Straight ahead, Hurricane Idalia starting to bear down on Florida by tomorrow morning. That's what our meteorologist Kevin Eubanks said. By tomorrow morning between 4 and 6 a.m. our time. We're not going to wait that long. We're going to go live to Florida next, where News Nation is standing by to join us.
It's 11:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top local story this hour. A realtor from Utah County who led the National Association of Realtors has resigned over allegations that he sexually harassed employees and discriminated against a former girlfriend. Kenny Parcell denies all these accusations, calling them attempts to tarnish his reputation. The National Association facing a lawsuit over Parcell's alleged threats to fire that ex-girlfriend. Visitors to Grand Canyon National Park are being warned not to drink the water, at least from one area of the park. KSL News Radio's Brandon King found out part of the water supply there is contaminated with E. coli.
The National Park Service says the bacteria were found in the Phantom Ranch area of Grand Canyon Park, around a half-mile north of the Colorado River. Officials say visitors should boil water for 60 seconds per 1,000 feet of elevation or bring separately bottled water.
The Park Service doesn't know yet how that contamination happened, but they've adjusted their water control and chlorination systems to deal with it. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Classes have been canceled today at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. A faculty member was shot and killed there yesterday. The campus was locked down for several hours. This student had just arrived on campus.
I've only been here a week. You come to college looking for something new, not for a tragedy like this to happen.
A suspect is in custody, but police haven't released his name or the name of the faculty member who was killed. A Republican presidential candidate is suspending his White House bid. Miami Mayor Francis Suarez dropping out. He didn't qualify for the recent GOP debate. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average now 241 points up on the day. The NASDAQ is up about 223 right now. And our KSL weather, we could set a high temperature record today. That's next. KSL News Time, 11:32.
What do you need to hear in the morning to feel ready for the day?
Important news that happened overnight, the traffic you'll hit on the roads.
You'll be ready for your day with us.
Join Utah's Morning News 5 to 9 on KSL News Radio.
Hey guys, are you over 30? Let's talk about testosterone and performance. Your testosterone can decline at an average of 1 to 2% a year after you turn 30. And Revive Men's Health have been experts at treating men with low testosterone and ED since 2011. We're the clinic guys come to when their current treatment isn't working. They have a complicated medical condition, or they're just not happy with their performance. We love what we do and the patients we care for. You can ask our patients. We did, and we have a 99% patient satisfaction rate this year. Our patients even tell us we're more affordable than their insurance deductibles and copays. Let's get to the bottom of your issues and fix them. That's what we do, and we do it really well. Book your T-check and exam today. Call 801-263-7777. That's 801-263-7777. Or send us a private message at ReviveMen'sHealth.com.
Close your eyes. Not if you're driving. The rest of you, close your eyes and imagine a world where you can stream all your favorite entertainment easier than ever. Now open them. You're in that world with the Xfinity 10G network made for streaming all your favorites. Forget about the hassle. With a reliable connection, you can sit back, relax, and enjoy the shows or movies or live sports. We know you're using your ears right now, but hopefully we've opened your eyes to the fact the best way to stream is on the Xfinity 10G network. Now through September 6th, new customers can get 1.2 gig internet on the network made for streaming for just $25 a month for 2 years when you add Xfinity Mobile with unlimited data. Plus, there's no annual contract and you get Wi-Fi equipment included. Get way more into what you're into when you stream on the Xfinity 10G network. Go to xfinity.com/10G, call 1-800-XFINITY or visit a store today. Requires paperless billing and auto pay with stored bank account restrictions apply. Taxes and fees extra. Xfinity Mobile requires Xfinity Internet after promo. Regular rates apply to internet service and devices. Actual speeds vary.
Held over due to popular demand. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to save 40 to 80% on a hot tub and swim spa. 4 days only, Friday through Monday. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Be advised, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to save 40 to 80% on a hot tub and swim spa. 4 days only, Friday through Monday. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. 18-month interest-free financing. Our factories have demanded we sell 1,000 hot tubs and swim spas this weekend. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Huge factory incentives, factory rebates, this weekend only. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. We can remove your old hot tub. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Hot tub starting at $2,999. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Just relax and enjoy. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Friday noon to 8, Saturday 10 to 8, Sunday 10 to 6, Monday 10 to 6. Free admission, free parking, free delivery. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Call 833-SPA-SALE or visit hottubandSwimSpaSale.com.
You trust us for news and information in your car. Now trust us at home. KSL News Radio is your window to the outside world, keeping you informed on the latest breaking news, weather, traffic, sports, and more. Listen on your Amazon Echo or Google Home device. Just say, Alexa, open KSL News Radio, or listen on the KSL News Radio app. Text the word app to 57500. KSL News Radio, Utah's all-day companion for news.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Granite Credit Union's new Dividend Plus checking account. Here's Ricky Meese.
We've had a medical situation affecting traffic in Murray. It's on the on-ramp, southbound to I-15 at 5300 South. Also, side street crashes, one in the cleanup stages in Taylorsville, 5400 South, 1500 West, and one in Salt Lake City, 1300 West and 1700 South. How do you know if you're getting the best deal on employee benefits? You don't, unless you get free quotes from every insurance company every year. Visit shopmyplan.com to get free quotes. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, south winds today push temperatures up to record levels, possibly as high as 100. And then tomorrow, temperatures drop into the 80s. There's a chance of thunderstorms again on Friday and Saturday. Right now, 88 degrees and sunny at KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM, 1160 AM, and KSLNewsRadio.com. Your all-day companion for news.
Dave and Dujanovic, special coverage of the top national story.
And that top national story, all eyes on Florida and Hurricane Idalia as the hurricane picks up speed. Kevin Eubank, KSL meteorologist, joined the show earlier and predicts that it will hit landfall tomorrow morning between 4 a.m. and 6 a.m.
Yeah, and Debbie, you can remember Hurricane Ian last year. It caused over $100 billion in damage, and they're still recovering from that destruction, devastation. They expect that by the time this hurricane hits, it's going to be a Category 3.
Let's get right to Xavier Walton, who is with News Nation. He's standing by live in Tampa Bay. Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, you know what's interesting is I was actually here in Tampa as Ian, the third costliest storm in American history, was barreling down on this area. And then if you guys remember, Ian actually took a turn and then just decimated areas south, when you talk about Fort Myers Beach and those areas. But I've been here now a little more than 24 hours here in Tampa, and I can tell you these people, the residents, are taking it seriously, especially after what happened almost nearly a year ago now. Governor Ron DeSantis, Florida governor, obviously has been doing press conferences more frequently at this point. But just hearing from people on the ground, speaking to people on the ground, when you look at the track of this storm, Tampa really, isn't so to speak, in the direct path, but more so when you talk about the dirty side of the storm and the adverse effects when you were talking about storm surge and flooding. I mean, people here have been at a sandbag station for hours, and they are really taking this seriously. And there are about 20 or so counties that have evacuation orders, whether that's voluntary, whether that's mandatory. But that's because up and down Florida's Gulf Coast, really, Idalia is going to have huge impacts. And I believe, I'm not a meteorologist, I'm just a reporter on the ground, but I believe those impacts are going to start later on this evening, at least the rain and the outer bands and that sort of thing.
How are Floridians dealing with this? I know this is nothing new to them. They deal with hurricanes every single year and never quite knowing which cities are going to be affected. But what's their attitude during this?
Oh, well, Floridians are prideful. They're gritty, right? So here, there are some folks, like I spoke to a woman up in Cedar Key, which is very close to where this storm may make a direct hit. Obviously, we're still some hours out. This woman I spoke to there said she isn't leaving. She's going to stay there because that's where she has lived her entire life. She said she's going to get to higher ground. Then you speak to other folks. I spoke to a gentleman just yesterday who was actually already evacuated because he said, you know what, it's just not worth it. Then I spoke to the mayor of Sanibel. Sanibel Island got decimated by Hurricane Ian. Those folks down there are just kind of holding their breaths because, to be quite honest, they're still cleaning up. I was there for a House Committee field hearing from FEMA, from the federal government, about 2-3 weeks ago regarding Ian, and they're still cleaning up there on Sanibel Island, or Fort Myers Beach. So they're just watching this thing, hoping the track stays consistent like it has been.
Xavier Walton is with News Nation. He's in Tampa Bay right now, where they're prepping for Hurricane Idalia. I want you to paint us a picture. I mean, obviously it's radio, so we can't see you, but paint us a picture. What does the weather look like now? What are you seeing around you there, Xavier?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and do some process reporting for you. We started out this morning over at Tampa General Hospital, where they were putting up their barriers for storm surge. It was hot, it was humid, it was sticky. Now it's starting to get a little bit grayer. You're starting to see a little bit of rain, but again, Idalia is still way off, a ways away in the Gulf of Mexico. To be quite honest, for people listening at home, right now I am sitting in a car outside of Walmart, and this Walmart is packed, full of people. The lines are crazy long, just trying to get whatever they need to ride out this storm because, like Governor DeSantis has said, widespread power outages are likely. It's almost inevitable at this point. He believes that they're going to happen, and that's why people are preparing now to go without power for a day, 2 days, maybe even 3 days, depending on where you're impacted. But as far as people here are concerned, you can definitely tell right now it's the calm before the storm. I know that's a cliche, but that's exactly what it is. They're really starting to ramp it up and get ready because the time is coming where Idalia is going to be here before we know it.
Do builders or developers, do they have hurricane-proof homes or ways that they build the homes differently than the rest of the country that prepare for these inevitable hurricanes?
That is a great question, and it depends on where in Florida you live and where, you're going. I know for a fact, like there are parts of, I said Cedar Key earlier, let's go there, because they're going to be really impacted. Small barrier island, but that's like old Florida, right? So you're talking about these older homes, these older buildings that aren't necessarily up to hurricane standards now. We'll see how that's going to fare, and then I'm going to do a short history lesson. In Sanibel, there was only one working hotel for the longest time. Sanibel basically took a direct hit from Hurricane Ian last year. That one hotel was upgraded to have hurricane set standards just within a couple of years of when Hurricane Ian hit, and that was the only hotel left standing. So when you go up and down Florida's coast, it's a mixed bag because some people upgraded, then you got the old Florida where it's like, no, we're going to keep it how it is.
Wow. Well, we appreciate you joining us, Xavier. Stay safe. Xavier Walton is the Miami bureau correspondent for News Nation. Best of luck.
Yep, he's in Tampa Bay reporting live for us, painting us a picture of what is going on in that area as people prep for Hurricane Idalia.
This has been something that's kind of been in the back of my mind for a while because we talk so much about making sure our buildings, our structures are earthquake resistant or even earthquake proof, and we spend a lot of time and money retrofitting. I look at the Salt Lake Temple right now. They've been years and years reworking the temple to make sure that it is earthquake proof, so to speak. So what does that mean? Well, it means they're doing the exact same stuff, but hurricane-wise down in Florida. But it's expensive, it's time-consuming, and especially in residential areas, you may not have the capital to do that in your own home.
Nobody wants to live in a bunker, Dave. Right? I mean, nobody wants to live underground in a bunker.
If I lived in Florida, that's what I would.
As long as you're steps from the beach. Yeah. Steps from the beach. Hey, straight ahead, I want to check in with KSL News Radio's Lindsay Aerts. She's our fabulous political reporter, keeping a very, very close eye on the special election. Last day to vote is September 5th. And I heard something I want to check in with her. There's one county that so far has a voter turnout of 1%. We got to out that county next.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Hi, it's Tim Hughes and Amanda Dixon.
Why should you start your day with us?
We have decades of news experience between us.
And we take your trust seriously.
Come here for news tomorrow, 5 to 9.
On KSL.
At the UPS store, you can ship it all. We're your bulky sports equipment shipping store, your heavy luggage shipping store, your fancy art shipping store. We're even your I can't believe it's already time for back to school shipping store. So visit your neighborhood We Ship It All store for dependable UPS shipping with easy-to-use tracking and competitive rates. The UPS store. Be unstoppable. The UPS store locations are independently owned. Product services, pricing, and hours may vary. See Center for details.
Her name is Becky Edwards, and she's the common-sense conservative we need in Congress. A proven fiscal conservative, Becky Edwards is unafraid to stand up to communist China or the big spenders in Washington to end the inflation that's hurting Utah families. Becky Edwards will defend our freedoms and support term limits like she did here in Utah. Becky Edwards, ready to make Washington work the Utah way.
I'm Becky Edwards, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Becky Edwards for Congress.
Every 40 seconds, someone dies by suicide. We have the power to change that. Join Promise to Live and promise right now that if you are ever feeling sad, depressed, hopeless, or suicidal, you'll reach out to a friend, family member, 988, or another resource. We need you. Go to promisetolive.org, and once you make the promise, share it. Stop the stigma, start the conversations, and save lives.
This is Derek Miller speaking on business. The Utah Inland Port Authority is working to ensure that we are growing in ways that will help preserve our economy, environment, and quality of life for future generations. Executive Director Ben Hart joins us with more.
The Utah Inland Port Authority is actively involved in developing solutions for a balanced transportation system, regional economic growth, and caring for our natural environment. One of the questions that we get most often is, what is an inland port? In short, an inland port is a facility where we can transfer truck cargo to rail. In Utah, we love our roads, but we have to find ways to put more cargo onto rail. This approach has proven to be better for the economy, the environment, and lowers the cost of money needed to build and maintain roads. We are also focused on building regional economies. We support communities with their economic goals by helping businesses to expand and create high-wage jobs for Utahns. As we all work together to provide a stronger Utah for future generations, the Utah Inland Port Authority will be actively engaged in helping to create real solutions for growth.
By creating a better multimodal transportation system and helping communities to grow optimally, the Utah Inland Port Authority is working to ensure Utah remains the strongest state in the nation and the best economy in the global marketplace. I'm Derek Miller with the Salt Lake Chamber, speaking on business.
A stranger with a gun came upon two teens taking pictures under a rising full moon. But violence is only the beginning of this story.
Sometimes I thought, there are no miracles. Yeah, there are, and this is a big one.
I'm Amy Donaldson, and I've spent my career talking about how lives are undone by violence. The Letter is a podcast about how lives are remade. Follow The Letter at theletterpodcast.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, E. coli has turned up in one of the water systems at Grand Canyon National Park. Second, a realtor from Utah County who rose to become head of the National Association of Realtors has resigned after he was accused of sexual harassment. He says the allegations aren't true. And third, classes are canceled today at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. A faculty member was shot and killed yesterday. The campus was locked down for several hours. Police do have a suspect in custody. Right now, 88 degrees and sunny in Salt Lake City. Back to Dave and Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
The race to replace. In-depth coverage on KSL News Radio.
We have a primary election day, a special election quickly approaching. It's next Tuesday. I think if you're going to mail your ballot in, you have until Tuesday to get it in the mail. We had the lieutenant governor on the show. And she told us yesterday not only about the ins and outs of dropping off your ballot, but that she was hopeful that the special election would produce a good turnout for the municipal elections that are also on the ballot.
Yeah, municipal elections.
Dave, your mic. There you go.
Push a button, Dave.
On?
There you go.
Is that what it says?
Radio 101. Turn the button on.
Actually, turn it back off. Lindsay and I will carry this conversation.
Lunch is coming up.
Go get
I'm
yourself
ready.
a sandwich.
Someone stole it. My sandwich. All right, Lindsay, back on. Go. Come on, focus, kids.
Focus.
Jeez, you can tell we've already done 2 hours and 45 minutes of radio. We got 15 more to go. All right, turnout. What's it looking like? Because everything has been supercharged. It's moved in such a fast, truncated amount of time. What are they saying?
Okay, so I talked to the state elections office who've been so gracious in giving me these numbers. So right now, the turnout for the CD2 race, not talking about any of the municipals or anything like that, just the race. This is Republicans, registered Republicans who are voting in the race to replace Congressman Chris Stewart. Turnout is about 15% district-wide. Now, what I've done is gone and peeked inside the curtain at a few different counties because CD2 is made up of 13 counties, but the majority of the voters in CD2 the majority of Republican voters in CD2 who are voting in this primary live in 3 counties, Salt Lake, Washington, and Davis. So those 3 counties make up the majority of who's voting in this election. In this Republican primary, however, the district spans 13 counties. So do the math on that. That's significant. Yeah. So that's kind of speaks to the campaign strategy, right? If you're looking at the campaign and how you target people, you're spending a lot of time off the Wasatch Front, but the majority of your voters, just looking at the numbers, are in those 3 counties. So while, yes, that's not to say the issues of the county are not, rural issues or anything like that, or of the district, I should say. Are not rural issues. Obviously, there's a lot of rural land, so there's a lot of BLM conversations, right? So those are issues that are really important to a lot of voters. But just by the numbers, a lot of the registered Republicans are in those 3 counties. So looking at Davis, Salt Lake, and Washington County, the turnout right now in Davis County among registered Republicans is at about 27%. Looking at Salt Lake County, it's about 16%. And then down in Washington County, and I also looked at Iron County, the turnout there among registered Republicans in both those counties is less than 1%.
In both those counties?
In both those counties. Now,
do they not know they have a choice here?
I can't speak to that. I don't know.
That's me being sarcastic.
Yeah.
It seems to, but then again, they do have until next Tuesday.
Yes, so there's still time. And it's also probably fair to say that potentially older, more conservative Republican voters tend to vote in person. Also, maybe they drop off their ballots later on Election Day. Some political analysts have told me that. So it's not to say that turnout won't pop up in Washington County, but we're a week out, 6 days out right now, and those are what the turnout numbers are looking like thus far. It appears as though Davis County is turning out and Washington County is not, at least right now. But again, we still have time.
Could that just be a counting or a processing error? Because that's such a low number. It almost sounds like they haven't gotten around to counting them.
Yeah, and it could be a function of the numbers, where, yes, Davis County has tabulated all their ballots and have a lot more tabulated, whereas, so far only the, 5,000 ballots have been turned in Washington County, but they've got 10 more thousand sitting somewhere else that they just haven't processed yet. Yes, that could be very true. But the numbers provided me by the county clerks in those counties are painting a very stark picture between the turnout in those counties. Now, I think it's too early to really make any conclusive, what this means, but it's just interesting to note as we kind of look at turnout as we approach Election Day, who's turning in their ballots.
And back to my more sarcastic remark, it could honestly be that people are confused. They've got a holiday weekend coming up. It's a rarity to have an election on the day after Labor Day. They might not realize, even though they got a ballot in the mail. I get ballots in the mail too. Sometimes it just takes a second look. Sometimes junk mail even looks like a ballot.
I'll also point this out about Southern Utah. KSL News Radio doesn't come in Washington County. That's just a function of our reach. We're not in St. George. We talk about the election a lot.
We're on the app.
That's fair.
For free.
That's fair. We're on the app for free.
You're absolutely right. It's not tuned into your car.
Yeah,
and
KSL TV comes in Southern Utah, right? As does Channel 2, right? The TV stations come in down in Southern Utah. So ads may be running on TV. Ads certainly may be running on social media, but maybe in Southern Utah they're not getting the bombardment of mass media that perhaps those along the Wasatch Front could get. So it could be a function of a lot of things. There's no real one reason that's pointing to why the turnouts here are so different, but just interesting to look at.
Going back to our conversation yesterday with Deidre Henderson, the Lieutenant Governor, we asked her that. We said, you think it's going to be a good turnout?
Well, I certainly hope so. But again, it's the day after a federal holiday. It's the end of the summer. People aren't typically thinking much about elections this time of year. However, there's been a lot of media attention brought to this very important special election, and I hope it does drive turnout.
Is there anything, because again, these elections are funded by the state legislature, they have to set money aside to run these elections. Is there any sort of campaign that you know of where they say, hey, this is where you can vote, this is how you can vote? Do they set aside money for that?
Yes. In fact, there was money set aside for an education campaign because we moved the dates of the election. You remember the election was supposed to be in August and early November. We pushed it back to September 5th and November 21st. So the legislature did appropriate some money to be able to make that a public awareness campaign. You'll see counties probably including mailers doing more social media, probably buying ads and stuff like that allow them to educate the public and get those out. I think that money goes to the counties in terms of how they use that public awareness campaign. But yes, there was money for that to kind of educate voters. The other thing I'll just say is when you look at that 15% district-wide turnout, it actually, and some of the political analysts I've spoken with say that's actually on par for turnout in a primary election. Yeah. So typically, conventional wisdom would tell you a third. You get a third of the ballots right away. Those are diehard voters, know how they're going to vote, not going to change their mind. You get a third trickle in between, that week after ballots drop and now-ish, right? And you get another third the weekend before and up until Election Day. Again, the holiday in the middle of that will make that a little bit interesting, but we are on pace to track around 40 to 50% turnout, which would be on par with the last time we had a special congressional election with a municipal election, which was 2017 when Jason Chaffetz resigned. Right. You remember that election. That turnout was around 40%, but the only difference here is that we moved election dates.
Lindsay Aerts, thank you for joining us. Yeah, next week.
Yeah.
Next Tuesday is the last day you can vote in this primary election, and then we have to wait until November for the general.
Yeah, and so far, 15% district-wide. Lindsay was specifically parsing through the data with the help of the state elections office regarding Congressional District 2. But we do know there are a lot of municipal elections going on right now as well. So you're going to want to take a look at that stack of mail that you've set aside on the counter that you haven't looked at. There's a chance it has a ballot in it, and you've got to get that thing either into a ballot drop box, which are at a lot of city halls, or you got to get it into the mail. I'd say ASAP at this point.
Yeah, and just to be very clear, typically if you're going to mail in your ballot, you have to do it the day before. In this, one time only. This is just for this election. You can actually send it on Election Day, so next Tuesday is the deadline when you can mail your ballot in the post office, but it's got to be postmarked on Tuesday.
Look, I know Maria and the team in the newsroom has been tracking what's going on in Florida and preps for Hurricane Idalia. We were just there live as well with News Nation, and Maria